I woke up in a strange world called the Great Qin Dynasty, a place I never learned about in any history class. Before this, I was an outdoor survival streamer. I used to live in the wilderness and broadcast it online. Then a wild boar knocked me off a mountain, and when I opened my eyes, I was here. The man whose body I took over was also named Chu Feng. He had a wife and a 5-year-old daughter named Meow Meow. His family treated him badly. His parents favored his older brother because the brother had a son, while he only had a daughter. So they gave him the smallest, worst house and barely any food. The original Chu Feng got sick from the cold and hunger and didn't make it. That's when I took his place. When I arrived, the family hadn't eaten in 2 days. My wife was skin and bones, and my little girl was crying from hunger. I couldn't just sit there feeling sorry for myself. I grabbed a bamboo basket and a small hoe and headed up the mountain to find wild vegetables. The villagers say this mountain is cursed. An old hunter went up once and never came back. They found his body with the organs missing. Nobody goes there, even during the famine. But I had no choice. My daughter Meow Meow secretly followed me, along with our little white puppy I named Binbin. Meow Meow is too weak and thin, and I worry about her catching cold out here. In this world, even a simple cold can kill you. But she's stubborn, so I let her stay close. Thanks to my survival skills from my old life, I can recognize wild plants. I found a few shepherd's purse plants and a couple of black nightshade plants. But it's almost winter, and there's barely anything growing. Getting through this winter is going to be really hard. Meow Meow hugged my leg and told me she was hungry. She asked for meat. I promised her I'd buy some, even though I knew I couldn't. The nearby town is poor too. War has driven food prices sky high, and meat is a luxury only rich people can afford. Refugees are already wandering outside the town, and enemy soldiers may attack the border soon. Things are only going to get worse. Just as I was about to keep digging, Binbin suddenly let out a sharp cry. Then Meow Meow screamed. I grabbed my hoe and ran toward them as fast as I could. Meow Meow screamed and ran into my arms. There it was, a wild boar, all black, staring at us with its tiny green eyes. It wasn't huge, maybe the size of a big dog, and it looked thin. But for my little girl and Binbin, it was terrifying. Binbin was scared too. His tail was tucked between his legs. But that brave little dog didn't back away. He stood right in front of us, barking at the boar. That's probably why we never ate him, even when we were starving. He's family. I pulled Meow Meow behind me and tensed up. I died because of a wild boar in my past life, so seeing one again made my heart pound. But then I noticed something. The boar's back leg was caught in a metal trap. The blood around the wound had already dried, so it must have been stuck there for a while. It couldn't move without pain. I also looked around carefully. Wild boars usually travel in groups, but this one was alone. It had probably been abandoned by its herd. I licked my lips. Sure, wild boar meat usually tastes awful and smells bad. But when you haven't eaten in 2 days, you don't get to be picky. The organs are still good, and the fat can be melted down into cooking oil. 1 spoonful of that oil in a dish would taste incredible. My wife and daughter hadn't had meat in who knows how long. I had to catch this thing. If the boar were healthy, I would have grabbed Meow Meow and run. But it was injured. All I had was a bamboo basket, a short hoe, and some rope. From my survival training, I knew at least 100 ways to catch a boar with just that. I tied the rope into a lasso, a basic survival skill. Then I told Meow Meow to hold Binbin and hide behind a tree. If the boar came toward them, run around the tree and keep it between them. I started moving closer. Slowly. At 15 meters, the boar got nervous, stomping its front hooves, breathing heavy. I stopped and waited. It calmed down. A good hunter needs patience. I kept creeping forward. 10 meters. Then the boar broke. It couldn't take the pressure anymore and bolted, ignoring the pain in its leg. I knew I had to act now. I threw the lasso. It landed right around the boar. I sprinted to a tree and wrapped the rope around the trunk. 100-pound boar running full speed. No way I could hold it with my bare hands. But with the tree as an anchor, it wasn't going anywhere. The boar went crazy, thrashing and pulling. I fought it from behind the tree, then tied the rope tight to the trunk. By the time I finished, sweat was dripping down my forehead. But I thought about my wife. I thought about my daughter, who had never tasted meat in her life. I thought about shepherd's purse and pork dumplings. I picked up my hoe, grabbed the bamboo basket, and walked up to the boar. Its tusks were sharp, Its eyes were red, and it looked ready to fight to the death. But it was facing a man who hadn't eaten in 2 days. "Let's do this," I yelled. I charged forward and slammed the basket over its head. Snow started falling as I stood there, breathing hard. The boar was finally dead at my feet, blood everywhere. The bamboo basket was broken, and my wild vegetables were scattered on the ground. But Meow Meow was jumping up and down, shouting, "We have meat! We have meat!" It was tougher than I expected. Even injured, that boar fought hard. It hit me a few times and nearly bit me. Lucky for me, the hoe was sharp and solid enough. And lucky the boar wasn't fully grown. If it had been an adult, I'd never have tried this. I had to get the body off the mountain fast. The smell of blood would attract wolves, leopards, or bears. I tied the boar up with rope and started dragging it downhill. Meow Meow grabbed the rope too, trying to help. Bin bit the pig's ear and pulled. Between the 3 of us, we got it moving. It took 2 hours to get home. Our house is at the very edge of the village, the smallest, most rundown one, closest to the mountain. That turned out to be a good thing. Nobody saw me dragging a whole pig through the village. I sent Meow Meow to get her mother. My wife, Zhou Xiao Xiao, had been waiting at the door, worried sick. When she saw the pig, she just froze. I told her to stop staring and help. She snapped out of it and grabbed the other end. She's strong. I think she could have carried the whole thing by herself. I finally got a good look at her. She's only 21, tall, about 165 centimeters. But she's painfully thin, her cheekbones stick out, and she looks almost like a different person. Still, her eyes are bright and full of life. We waited until dark to butcher the pig. I went to the village chief's house to borrow a cleaver. In this dynasty, the government strictly controls iron tools because of the constant wars. Every knife in the village is managed by the chief. I told him I needed it to chop firewood. He didn't question it. That night, Xiao Xiao and I cut up the whole pig. Hooves, legs, skin, the big head, all the organs, everything sorted and set aside. The most important part was the belly fat. We rendered every last bit of it into lard. That alone would give us over 10 pounds of cooking oil. Meow Meow watched the whole time, drooling so much she nearly started chewing raw meat. We shaved off some tenderloin and stir-fried it with the wild vegetables. I also found a bonus, the iron trap that caught the boar. It was old and rusty, but iron is iron. In a world where common people only have iron pots and hoes, a piece of iron like that could be turned into useful tools. Just as I was thinking about all the possibilities, 2 people slipped through our door. "Smells so good. Mom, come look, they're eating without sharing." I heard my older brother Yulong's voice outside. "Smells so good. Mom, they're eating without sharing." My heart sank. I'd only been in this world a few days, but from the original Chu Feng's memories, I knew this family only ever brought trouble. They ignored him, took his food, and gave him the worst of everything. All because he had a daughter instead of a son. I looked at the cleaver on the ground. Dark thoughts flashed through my mind. In a famine like this, if people found out we had a whole pig, anything could happen. Then Xiao Xiao put her hand on my shoulder, and I calmed down. I opened the door. My mother, Wei Xiaoxia, and my brother were standing in the yard. She's around 40, sharp and bossy. Luckily, they didn't come inside. All the butchered pork was in the house. Yulong sniffed the air like a dog. "That's meat," he said, his face full of greed. My mother didn't waste time. "Your brother's wife just had a baby and has no milk. Give him half your meat." I laughed coldly. "Half? Where's our share of the family grain? I have my own land. I grew crops. After taxes, there should be enough for my family of 3. But you took it all and gave us just one person's share." She didn't even flinch. "Your sister-in-law finally had a boy. They needed the food more. You had some old grain left." "Old grain? If we had grain, would Meow Meow be starving like that? Would Xiao Xiao be nothing but skin and bones? How can you say that with a straight face?" I stood up, grabbed the cleaver, and took a few steps forward. That got their attention. The old Chu Feng never talked back. I pointed at our house. No windows. Cracks in every wall, stuffed with straw. The fence around the yard was falling apart. The worst house in the whole village. "You gave my food to my brother. You gave me the worst house. And when I asked you to watch Meow Meow, you fed bread to his kid and gave my daughter water. Now you want half my meat. Why should I? That's what made me the angriest. I could live with the bad house and no grain. But mistreating my little girl, no parent can accept that. My mother's answer was ice cold. She's just a girl. A money-losing deal. She's not really part of the Chu family. Your brother's sons carry the family name. That's what matters. Now hand over the meat, and come plant winter wheat for your brother's family tomorrow. I went quiet. There's no reasoning with people who think like this. When she started walking toward the house to take the meat herself, I slammed the cleaver into the ground right in front of her feet. She went pale. Yulong screamed. Chu Feng, what are you doing? You'd kill your own mother and brother? Before Yulong could finish yelling, my mother slapped him across the face. He looked confused. So was I? Then she said, why are you shouting? You want the whole village to know they have meat? So that's how it was. She already considered my stuff hers. She turned to me and put on a serious tone. Your brother's child is your nephew. You can't just watch them starve. As the second son, you have a responsibility. I fired right back. Where was that responsibility when my family was starving? You took my share of grain and gave it to him. You said we had old grain left. If that were true, would Meow Meow and Xiao Xiao look like walking skeletons? Her answer was the same cold nonsense. Everything is for the family. The Chu family will feed you, but not your money-losing daughter. Want food? Tell your wife to have a boy. I almost laughed. Then Yulong spotted the iron trap on the ground with a small pig's foot still in it. His eyes went wide with greed. I picked it up and told them the trap only caught one leg, which we already ate. All that was left was this little trotter. They didn't believe me, but I didn't care. When Yulong tried to push past me into the house, I pulled out the cleaver and pointed it at him. Try it. Binbin jumped up too, baring his little teeth. Yulong froze. Cold sweat ran down his face. He'd never seen the old Chu Feng act like this. He backed down fast. Fine, just share a little. Take off your cotton jacket, I said. Trade it for the pig's foot. What? He couldn't believe it. A cotton jacket in winter is worth a lot. Cotton is a luxury only rich people normally have. He started whining to our mother. She walked over and pulled the jacket off him herself. Pig's foot soup will help your wife make milk for the baby. Stop complaining. She threw me the jacket. I threw him the trotter. Then they left. After they were gone, I finally relaxed. I don't know how the original Chu Feng put up with being bullied like that. But I'm not him. What's mine, I protect. Xiao Xiao looked at me with worry. In this world, talking back to your parents is a serious thing. But I did it for her and Meow Meow, and I'd do it again. I gave her the cotton jacket to clean up. It would help keep us warmer at night. She started hanging the pork above the chimney to smoke it into preserved meat. I don't love smoked meat, especially without salt, but she was thinking long-term, making it last months. After removing the bones and fat, there wasn't that much meat anyway. I looked around our broken house. Walls full of cracks, no windows, a useless fence. There was so much to fix. But first, we needed to eat. An idea started forming in my head. Maybe I could become a hunter. My survival skills are my best advantage in this world. If I hunted enough, I could feed my family and trade the extra meat in town for grain and money. As long as the war doesn't reach us, we could make it. That night, I told Xiao Xiao I wanted to go hunting again tomorrow. She reminded me that the village chief called a meeting for all the men. I almost said forget it, but then I remembered. When the original Chu Feng was sick with a bad cold, the village chief sent medicine. It didn't save him, but the kindness was real. So I decided to show up for the meeting first, then head out to hunt. The next day, heavy snow covered the whole village. I went to the village chief's house to return the cleaver. My brother Yulong had already been there running his mouth, telling everyone I found meat on the mountain and disrespected him and our mother. A guy named Wang Wei, the village troublemaker, was boasting he'd beat me up and make me kneel and apologize. But when I walked in carrying that blood-stained cleaver, face cold as the winter air, everyone went quiet. Not a single word. The village chief, Du Dahai, stared at me. He said later he'd only seen eyes like mine on bandits who raided the village years ago. I handed back the cleaver and left. I didn't stay for the meeting. It had nothing to do with me. After I was gone, Yulong and Wang Wei talked tough again. Yulong threatened to cut off my family's grain share starting this month. I headed straight for the mountain, Yulong Mountain. Overnight, everything had turned white. Today I was better prepared. I wore the cotton jacket I traded for, covered with animal skin. I brought the hoe and the iron trap. I'd studied that trap all night. The spring inside was made from deer tendon, which gave it real power. But it was wearing out. maybe 2 more uses before it broke. Still, the tendon itself was useful. With the right wood, I could make a bow and arrows. That was today's real goal, finding good wood for a bow. The pig meat at home would last a while, so hunting wasn't urgent. But if an opportunity came, I wouldn't pass it up. The snowy mountain was dead silent. I spotted tracks in the fresh snow, 2-pronged hoof prints. Deer. And the prints were fresh, meaning it might still be nearby. I followed the trail all morning, digging through snow along the way for wild vegetables. Only found a few. I was careful not to go too deep. Other villagers had tried hunting in this mountain before. The trap I found probably belonged to one of them. It's dangerous up here, especially in snow. You can't see the ground properly. One wrong step and you could break a leg. If you're too far from the village or get lost, that's the end. Then, about half an hour in, I started feeling something strange. Someone was following me. Yulong must have spread the word about my meat, and now someone wanted to see where I was getting it. I climbed a huge pine tree, so big that 4 or 5 people couldn't wrap their arms around it. I sat on the first branch and waited. Sure enough, a man came rushing up to the tree, looking around frantically. When I saw who it was, I froze for a second. But I made my decision quickly. I gripped my hoe tight and jumped down from the tree right on top of him. I jumped down from the tree and landed right on top of the man. My hoe stopped just a finger's width from his neck. It was the village chief, Dahai. I pretended to be surprised. Village chief? What are you doing here? He was terrified. I came to hunt with you, he stammered. I got off him slowly but kept my eyes locked on his. This was a man who commanded respect in the village, and now he looked nervous in front of me. He wasn't lying, though. Being village chief doesn't pay anything. He's just as poor and hungry as everyone else. He'd always been too scared to enter the mountain because of the old stories. But after seeing me come back with meat, he followed me up. Then he pulled something from his bag, an axe. In this dynasty, axes are strictly banned. If the government found out you had one, your whole family could be executed. He begged me to help him hunt, offering the axe as a gift. I took it. Good weight to it. If you wanted to hunt together, just say so, I told him. Following someone in the wilderness, I might think you're trying to rob me. His bag was still bulging. He pulled out a bow, no string, old and worn, with dark stains on it. Another forbidden item. By handing me these things, he was putting his life in my hands. If I reported him, his family would be destroyed. That told me he meant no harm. Suddenly, we heard rustling sounds. We both climbed a tree fast. A herd of animals ran past below us. Rock sheep. I was shocked. Rock sheep normally live at high altitudes. What were they doing down here? This made me question where exactly I was in this world. I needed a map. Dahai grabbed my arm excitedly, wanting me to act. But I held still. The sheep were running too fast, like something was chasing them. Then it appeared, a snow leopard, white with black spots. It stopped right below our tree and stared up at us with cold eyes. Dahai nearly fell off the branch. It's a big cat. If it jumps and grabs your neck, you're done. I wasn't planning to fight it. But I wasn't scared either. Snow leopards aren't that big, about the size of a large dog. The fact that it was chasing sheep but hadn't attacked meant it was looking for the young ones. It couldn't take down an adult sheep either. While we waited, I got to work. I chopped some branches with the axe and carved them into sharp wooden arrows. Then I took the deer tendon out of the old trap and strung it onto the chief's bow. Just like that, I had a working weapon. Before my old life as a streamer, I'd been in the military and trained in archery, climbing, horseback riding, all kinds of things. A bow changed everything for me. When we looked down again, the leopard was gone. Dahai sighed with relief. The sheep had circled around and were heading back uphill. I scanned the herd carefully. The adults were too big and dangerous. Even the leopard avoided them. I needed a young one. The bow was untested, and I didn't know if it was powerful enough to pierce an adult's thick hide. Then I spotted it, a young sheep, smaller than the rest. Found one, I said. Dahai watched in confusion as I drew the bow and let the arrow fly. The arrow went right through the little lamb's neck. The herd of rock sheep barely glanced at it before running off. Not a single one cared. Village chief Dahai slid down from the tree next to me, staring in shock. You can shoot a bow? Learned a bit, I said with a smile. We carried the lamb together, one holding the head, the other the legs, and moved fast down the mountain. That snow leopard from earlier could come back any time if it smelled blood. On the way down, the chief told me to take apart the bow and hide it. Then he handed me both the bow and an axe. Keep them. I don't hunt. They're no use to me. I was surprised. These are banned items in this dynasty. The government doesn't allow common people to have weapons. But out here, far from any real authority, they could save my life. I asked him why he always told the villagers the mountain was cursed. He sighed and explained. On the other side of Yulong Mountain is the enemy nation, Xia. The mountain is full of spies, criminals on the run from both countries, and dangerous natives who live up there. Wild animals you can maybe survive. These people, no chance. The old hunter who died on the mountain years ago had his organs removed. No animal does that and leaves the body intact. That gave me a lot to think about. We got back to my house, and Xiao Xiao and Miao Miao were waiting. Xiao Xiao's smile froze when she saw the village chief with me, but he broke the awkwardness right away. Your husband's a good man, he told her. I gave the chief the lamb's brain, front hooves, and organs. He took them gratefully. He told me his son, Zhuang, was sick with the same cold that killed the original Chu Feng. The town doctor said the boy needed meat or he might not make it. That's why the chief had risked going into the mountain with illegal weapons. I carefully skinned the lamb. The hide was valuable, then butchered the rest. I told Xiao Xiao to start a fire. Tonight we'd have lamb organ soup. Her eyes lit up. I stored what needed storing, hung what needed drying, and didn't bother hiding any of it. I'd be bringing back more kills in the future. The village would find out sooner or later. No point pretending. I hid the bow and axe under the bed, though. Those were different. If someone reported me to the authorities in town, that could mean real trouble. I was outside chopping firewood when Yulong showed up at my door. He was holding a big steaming bun, waving it in my face. Done with your pig leg yet? But it tasted terrible. Look what I've got, he said, showing off his bun like it was a treasure. I ignored Yulong, but he wouldn't shut up. He stood at my door bragging about how our mother took my family's next month of grain, traded it for flour and salt, and made 2 big buns for him. He bit into one right in front of me, grinning. Want some? Too bad, it's all in my belly now. I didn't care much. Those buns were made with rough, dark flour. Nothing like the fine flour from my previous life. They looked like they'd scratch your throat going down. Then he tried showing off the bun to Miao Miao. But my little girl didn't back down one bit. I don't want your stinky bun. It smells worse than Benbin. My daddy brings home meat. Who needs your stupid bun? I burst out laughing. That's my girl. When Yulong said something nasty about Miao Miao's attitude, I grabbed the cleaver and stepped forward. He shut up about her real quick, but kept hanging around, holding his half-eaten bun in the air like a trophy. Then the smell from our kitchen hit him. Xiao Xiao brought out a big bowl of thick, milky white lamb soup with chunks of meat floating on top and green onions sprinkled over it. She served one for each of us, me, her, and Miao Miao. The soup was incredible. Young lamb has almost no gamey smell, and with a pinch of salt, it was unbelievably delicious. Yulong's jaw nearly dropped. He tried to save face. Just soup? No bread? How sad. Come home and apologize to mother on your knees, and she'll give you some rough flour for flatbread. Right then, the village chief showed up behind him. Move aside, Yulong. Yulong scrambled out of the way, putting on a fake smile. Village chief, what are you doing at Chu Feng's house? Bringing him fine flour. He did me a huge favor today. The chief opened his bag, 2 whole pounds of the finest flour in the village. Yulong's eyes went wide. Nobody in the village had flour that fine. Only the chief's family had any, and he was giving it to me. Village chief, why would you give fine flour to this useless guy? Yulong blurted out. The chief stared at him. Useless? Then he laughed, a cold, mocking laugh, and walked past him into my yard without another word. I thanked him and said I'd use some of the flour to make stuffed buns with the leftover meat and wild vegetables. I offered him soup. He tried to refuse. Nobody wastes food in times like these. But Xiao Xiao had already filled a bowl to the brim with rich white broth, overflowing with lamb organs. He couldn't say no. Yulong stood outside, eyes turning green with envy. He mechanically stuffed the rest of his bun into his mouth and shouted, "Just you wait. Chu Feng. I'm telling mother you have meat, and you're not handing it over." That bowl of hot lamb soup put the village chief in a great mood. He realized I could be a real asset to the village. Everyone was struggling. The harvests had shrunk, taxes had gone up, and the whole village was barely surviving on last year's leftover grain. But now there was a hunter who could bring back meat. That meant another way to stay alive. I was relieved he supported my hunting. At first I tried to hide the wild boar, worried about jealousy or some kind of ban on hunting in the mountains. But the chief just laughed. People are about to starve. Nobody cares about rules right now. He gave me the axe and bow, which would make hunting much more efficient. I already had a pig skin and a sheep skin that I could sell in town for rice and flour. Things were looking up. Before he left, I asked him for a favor, help fixing up my house. I couldn't do it alone. The walls were full of gaps, the foundation was weak, the fence was falling apart, and I needed a woodshed built. I knew that as I kept hunting, more people like Yulong would come sniffing around. I couldn't stay isolated. My daughter needed playmates, my wife needed neighbors, and I needed help. Better to build goodwill now. The chief gathered the village men. When he told them I'd feed everyone meat for helping, they practically stampeded to my house. Even Wang Wei, the guy who wanted to beat me up yesterday, came running, though he grumbled the whole way. When they arrived and saw 20 pounds of pork and lamb hanging in my yard, they went silent. Then they erupted. Tell us what to do. One guy asked if his wife could come help too. Another asked for a small piece to bring home to his parents. I smiled and said yes to everything. I wasn't stupid. I only brought out 20 pounds and told everyone that was all I had. The rest stayed hidden. In times like these, too much meat on display could make you a target. Everyone worked like crazy. Men mixed mud and packed the foundation. They cut trees and built the woodshed. They fixed the fence. Women came too, boiling water, helping Xiao cook the meat. Some even brought wild vegetables to add to the pot. The 2 pounds of fine flour became flatbread instead of buns, since there were so many mouths to feed. In just 4 hours, most of the work was done. My house had solid walls, a real fence, and a proper woodshed. If I'd done it alone, it would have taken months. Wang Wei worked the hardest of anyone. He looked embarrassed for believing Yulong's lies about me. A man who hunts on a cursed mountain and shares his meat with the whole village, that's not the bad guy Yulong made me out to be. Just as I called everyone to wash up for lunch, my mother's voice cut through the air from the doorway. Chu Feng, you really do have meat. She stared at the cut-up pieces, fists clenched, teeth grinding. You won't share with your own family, but you'll give it to outsiders? My mother stormed into the yard, shaking with rage. How dare you give food to these lowly people? You're a Chu. Everything you have belongs to the Chu family. I stood there, face blank. This is mine. I give it to whoever I want. Village Chief Du Dahai stepped in before I had to say more. Who do you think you are, Wei Xiaoxia? Acting like your family is some noble clan? You're villagers just like the rest of us. That opened the floodgates. The other villagers started speaking up too. Wang Wei, the same guy who wanted to beat me up yesterday, said something that really hit the mark. Taking care of your mother is a duty. But I've never heard of any duty to feed a grown brother who hides behind his mommy and a bunch of lazy men who don't lift a finger. Yulong's eyes went wide. His best friend had just turned on him. Wang Wei rolled up his sleeves and stepped toward him. Yulong immediately ducked behind our mother. Everyone burst out laughing. That's your so-called superior family? One brother risks his life on a cursed mountain to feed his wife and daughter, and the other one still hasn't been weaned. I didn't need to say much. The villagers could see for themselves. I shared meat with strangers who helped me. My mother and brother only ever took. Xiao and the other women finished making flatbread from the fine flour, about 20 or 30 palm-sized pieces. A bowl of hot meat soup with a piece of bread. People's faces lit up. Some ate slowly, crying as they chewed. Some wolfed it down in 3 bites and eyed their neighbors' bowls. Some quietly set half aside to bring home to their families. My family ate comfortably. When Meow Meow spit out a bone, Bin Bin grabbed it, held his head high, and strutted back to his little bed without looking at anyone. My mother and Yulong just stood there in the yard, stomachs growling loud enough for everyone to hear. Yulong tugged on our mother's sleeve like a little kid. Mom, I'm hungry. That bun was too rough. I want meat soup. That finally made her snap. She lunged at the villagers, trying to grab bowls out of their hands. Stop eating. This is Chu family meat. You people have no right. Nobody paid her any attention. These were starving men with food in front of them. If she got too close, they'd have kicked her. They held back only because she was my mother. She didn't manage to grab a single bowl. I walked up to her and made it simple. Stay and work, you eat. Keep making trouble, Get out. My mother just stood there, stunned. Then she exploded. I'm your mother. How dare you speak to me like this? I let it all out. You're my mother, but you took my grain and let my daughter starve. You gave me this broken-down house where we freeze every night. You let my brother come here and cause trouble whenever he wants. What kind of mother does that? Then I said the words she never expected. If you keep this up, we cut ties. You can have my farmland. But after that, don't ever come to my house asking for anything again. Nothing here belongs to the Chu family. She went quiet, eyes wide. Before, she would have agreed to cut ties without blinking. But now she'd seen the meat, the soup, the village chief praising my hunting skills. Suddenly I was worth keeping around. Yulong rushed in to smooth things over. Mom, you can't cut ties, your family. I gave them one last chance. Work and eat. Or leave. Yulong caved. I'll work. He got half a bowl of soup and half a piece of bread. He ate happily and even said to call him next time there was work. My mother refused and walked away. By late afternoon, the villagers had finished everything. My house was transformed, walls sealed tight, a proper woodshed built, a tall sturdy fence around the yard. It would have taken me months alone. After everyone left, I asked the village chief about my family's history. He told me the Chu family arrived 30 or 40 years ago with over a dozen people, some of them clearly servants. They'd been scattered over the years, leaving just the main family. It confirmed what I suspected. The Chu family used to be wealthy, maybe even nobility. That explained my mother's attitude, always acting like she was above everyone else. But none of that mattered now. They lived in the same poor village as everyone else. The chief warned me about something important. Tax collectors come every month now. It used to be once a year, then twice, and now monthly. If they search my house and find meat, but no grain, there'll be big trouble. He told me to trade some meat for grain in town before the next collection. That evening, I held Xiao Xiao and Miao Miao in the doorway, looking at our little home. The walls were sealed. The room was warm for the first time. Miao Miao jumped on the heated bed and rolled around, laughing. For days the walls had leaked cold air, making the bed useless no matter how hot we made it. Now the whole room was cozy. Xiao Xiao hugged me. You're amazing, she said, her face red. I picked her up and put her on the bed, teasing her about showing her something even more amazing. She blushed and whispered that Miao Miao was right there. It's dark, she'll fall asleep soon. And then, that's when I heard something scratching at the fence. I froze. Xiao Xiao didn't hear it. I crept to the new window and cracked it open. The snow outside made everything glow faintly, brighter than the dark room. And right there, in my yard, I saw it. A snow leopard, white fur covered in black spots, staring right at my house. A chill ran through me. That snow leopard from the mountain had followed us all the way down to our house. If it were just me, I wouldn't be too worried, grab the axe and fight. But Xiao Xiao and Miao Miao were inside. They couldn't defend themselves against something like this. I peeked through the window. The snow made everything outside glow faintly, and I could see it clearly. White fur, black spots, moving through my yard. The fence was 1.5 meters tall, but a cat like that jumped right over it like nothing. Lucky for us, the house walls had just been fixed today. Before the repairs, the leopard could have walked straight in. This was my fault. Between the pig and the lamb, 2 days of butchering and cooking, the smell of blood and meat had drifted up the mountain. The leopard was starving, desperate enough to come into a human settlement. I grabbed the axe from under the bed. Xiao Xiao pulled my arm, confused. I told her straight. There's a big cat outside. Miao Miao was already snoring on the bed. Kids sleep through anything. That's exactly why I had to deal with this. I told Xiao Xiao to shut the door behind me. She begged me not to go. Just lock the door, it'll leave when it can't find food. I shook my head. Our meat is in the woodshed. That's our food for the whole winter. And the roof isn't reinforced. If it jumps up there, it could crash right through. I need to scare it off for good, or it'll keep coming back. In my past life, I'd faced bears, venomous snakes, all kinds of dangerous creatures during my outdoor streams. Never a leopard, but snow leopards are small, maybe 30 or 40 kilograms. I'm over 80 kilograms. Size matters in nature. I kicked the door open, roaring and swinging the axe. The leopard startled and leaped onto the woodshed roof, crouching low, growling at me. It could smell the meat right below its feet. It was too hungry to leave. We stared each other down. Then I went into the kitchen and pulled some hot coals from the stove. I grabbed the torch I'd made using pig fat. No animal on earth isn't afraid of fire. The moment I came back out with the flame, the leopard's eyes filled with panic. It jumped off the roof, cleared the fence, and bolted toward the mountain. Xiao Xiao ran out and threw her arms around me. "You scare me to death. It's fine now," I said, patting her back. But in my mind, I knew it wasn't fine. We're in a high-altitude area. Heavy snow keeps falling. The animals on the mountain are running out of food and coming down to where humans live. They're not just stealing scraps. Predators in your yard means real danger. I checked the woodshed. The meat was frozen under snow piles. The smoked pork hung from the rafters. That's what drew the leopard. Binbin was in there sleeping like a rock through the whole thing. If the leopard had gotten inside, that stupid dog would be dead. "All you do is sleep," I scolded him. He woke up and started running circles around me like nothing happened. I wasn't going to wait for the leopard to come back. I took the old iron trap, rewound the deer tendon springs, and set it on top of the woodshed roof. I placed a pound of lamb meat on it as bait, then rigged a bunch of rope snares around it for good measure. If that leopard dared to return, it wouldn't leave again. A leopard's skin is worth more than pig and sheepskin combined. I finally crawled back into bed with Xiao Xiao. She asked if the big cat would come back. "If it does, it's not leaving alive," I said. I drifted off to sleep. I don't know how long I was out before I heard the village chief shouting outside. I woke up to the village chief shouting outside. "Get up. The government's here to collect grain." I jumped out of bed. This wasn't right. The last collection was only half a month ago, and they were supposed to come once a month. The war must be getting worse. I had no grain. Not a single bag. But when I opened the door, Dudahai was standing there with half a sack of grain on his shoulder, 30 or 40 pounds. He'd brought it from his own family's supply. I was genuinely moved. Every family in the village had maybe 100 pounds of grain left to last through half a year of winter. For him to give me this much was a real sacrifice. He said his son survived because of the meat I shared, and that was a life-saving debt. I knew he also wanted me to keep hunting so his family could benefit, but the help was real regardless. On the way to the village center, I told him about the snow leopard. He offered to gather men to help catch it, but I shook my head. Nobody would risk getting hurt fighting a predator like that. I'd handle it myself. When we arrived, the villagers were already lined up. 2 armed government officers stood by a cart, checking names against a list. Then I heard Yulong's voice. "Chu Feng hasn't shown up yet." The villagers glared at him. Wang Wei shot back. "If your family hasn't officially split, then your household should pay his share." "We split a long time ago," Yulong shouted. My mother stood beside him, silent, confirming it. Then Yulong spotted me walking up empty-handed. His eyes lit up with a nasty gleam. "Officers, look, he brought no grain. Arrest him." The 2 officers drew their swords. My mother stood there watching, cold as stone. But the villagers wouldn't have it. What kind of family reports their own? "We'll all chip in. Don't take him." Every single one of them stood up for me. Hearing their voices, my anger melted away. My mother screamed over everyone. "This is Chu family business." Then she turned to me with her offer. "I'll pay your grain tax. But you and your wife must come back to the main household." I knew exactly what this was about. They didn't want me back for family unity. They wanted my hunting kills. The moment I stopped being useful, they'd throw me out again. "Is this about me coming home, or is it about the meat in my yard?" I asked. "You're a Chu. Everything you own belongs to the family. Kneel, apologize, and I'll pay your tax." She thought she had me cornered. She'd been planning this, giving me only 2 people's worth of grain for 3 mouths, knowing I'd run out before tax day. This was her moment to control me. "What if I refuse?" I said. Yulong jumped in immediately. "Officers, he can't pay. Search his house and arrest him." The villagers were furious, grinding their teeth. They couldn't believe a family could be this cruel. Getting thrown into a government jail during wartime, you might never come out. My mother asked one final time, "Will you come back to the family?" "No." Yulong's eyes went wild. He was still angry about having to work for soup yesterday. In his mind, I was the lesser son. Everything I had should go to him and the main household. He turned to the officers. "He won't pay. He won't cooperate. Do your job. Take him." The 2 officers looked at me with amused eyes. "No grain, kid." I wasn't scared of them. I asked why they were collecting half a month early when it was supposed to be monthly. The villagers had the same question, but were too afraid to ask. The officers sneered. "Don't ask questions. From now on, it's every 2 weeks. No grain means jail. The villagers erupted. Winter wheat isn't even grown yet. My mother hasn't eaten, my kids are starving. But the moment the officers drew their swords, everyone went quiet. Village chief Du Dahai stepped in before things got worse. He handed over the grain, his grain, for both our families. The officers waited, nodded, and left without another word. Yulong couldn't believe it. Where did you get grain? You must have stolen it. Du Dahai's face turned dark. Stolen? That grain was with mine. Are you saying my grain is stolen too? Yulong shut his mouth fast. Then the chief addressed the whole village. We stick together in this village. Reporting your own family to the authorities, that will never happen again. Wei Xiaoxia, Yulong, this is your first and last warning. Do it again and we'll drive you out of the village. That terrified them. Getting expelled during wartime meant almost certain death. They slunk away without a word. But the rest of the village looked miserable. Wang Wei sat down in the snow, head in his hands. With grain collection now every 2 weeks, nobody's supplies would last. People were going to starve. Then Wang Wei said what everyone was thinking. Why don't we all go hunting with Chu Feng? The chief scolded him. Hunting is dangerous. But Wang Wei pushed back. Chu Feng can do it. Why can't we? Another young man named Sun Can joined in. You told us the mountain was cursed, but let Chu Feng go up there. He eats meat while we go hungry. That's not fair. The chief could see he wasn't going to stop them this time. He agreed, but set 3 rules. First, everyone listens to me. I'm more experienced than any of them. Second, nobody wanders off alone. The group stays together. Third, no fighting over kills. Everything gets shared equally, so the whole village survives. I agreed. We saw that herd of rock sheep up there. Catch just 2 and the whole village eats. Then a thin young man stepped forward. The chief's son, Du Cheng, 26 years old. He'd been sick and weak his whole life. I could see right away it was just severe malnutrition causing a weak immune system. Back in my old world, some medicine and proper food would fix him easily. Here, just staying alive was a miracle. He begged his father to let him come along. If you won't let me go, I'll run into the mountain alone and never come back. I'd rather die than keep being a burden. The chief's face twisted with pain, but he gave in. Fine, but you follow orders. Du Dahai turned to the whole group. Everyone go home, grab your tools, meet at Chu Feng's house. We're going hunting. As the crowd broke up, I caught a glimpse of Chu Long hiding behind a house, watching us. He was muttering to himself, hunting? Following that loser who got lucky with a pig leg? I'll make sure you all end up in jail. Over 20 of us headed up the mountain, 1 young person from each household. The youngest was 14, the oldest was Chief Du Dahai at 40-something. Everyone was bundled up thick, trudging through deep snow. That's when I noticed something interesting. Almost every family had illegal weapons hidden away, axes, sickles, even a sword. Du Dahai made everyone swear to keep quiet about it. Anyone who reports this gets dealt with by village rules. In this era, village punishment could mean death. Nobody argued. I brought out my axe and bow. I'd replaced the deer tendon bowstring with twisted cotton hemp rope and carved some wooden arrows. Not sure how well they'd work, but it was something. We walked in formation, me and the chief scouting up front, Wang Wei and Sun Can at the back, everyone else in the middle. Our target was that herd of rock sheep from before. At the rear, Wang Wei was showing off a sword his grandfather left from his military days. He and Sun Can were talking big, saying the mountain wasn't really dangerous, that the chief was just an old man exaggerating things. Then they spotted a rabbit. A gray-black wild rabbit, about 15 meters away. Wang Wei got excited and whispered to Sun Can that they should sneak off and catch it themselves, just the 2 of them, so they wouldn't have to share with 20 people. Du Cheng, the chief's son, warned them to stay with the group. They waved him off and crept away after the rabbit. 3 hours into the hike, the villagers started complaining. Where are these sheep? We've been walking forever. The chief set them straight. You think Chu Feng's catches were just luck? He walked 3 hours alone, found the sheep herd with a snow leopard stalking it, and managed to kill a lamb right under that leopard's nose. That's what gave you your soup yesterday. And you're already complaining about walking? The villagers looked at me with new eyes. They'd assumed I just got lucky. Now they understood hunting was exhausting and dangerous. Then Du Cheng stumbled up to us, panicking. Wang Wei and Sun Can went after a rabbit half an hour ago. They haven't come back. The chief exploded. He slapped Du Chung hard enough to knock him down. I told you all to stay together. Why didn't you tell me immediately? I pulled the chief back. Blaming people won't help. We need to find them. The mountain was enormous and covered in snow. They'd been gone over an hour. They were probably lost. Lost isn't so bad, but lost plus wild animals is a death sentence. I made a quick decision. We can't split up to search. We've already lost 2 people. Splitting up means losing more. I told Du Chang to lead the villagers back to the village since he knew the way. The rest were frozen and exhausted after 3 hours anyway. Some had wanted to quit a while ago, but were too embarrassed to say so. What about Wang Wei and Sun Qian? Someone asked. Too many people is a burden, not a help, I said. The chief and I will stay and find them. Everyone else, get home before dark. The group headed back with Du Chang. The chief and I returned to the spot where the 2 had wandered off. Their footprints were easy to find, deep impressions in the thick snow leading into the mountain. I pulled out the axe. From here on, it's just us 2. Stay sharp. Understood, the chief said. We followed the tracks deeper into the mountain. The wind and snow got heavier as we followed the footprints up the mountain. Visibility was dropping fast. The tracks were getting shallower. Another half hour and the snow would have buried them completely. Du Dahai was breathing hard, anxious. Every family knew their men had gone hunting under his watch. If 2 didn't come back, he'd have to face their families. Then I saw something that made me stop. Next to the human footprints were paw prints, round, wide at the base, with long sharp pads. Like a cat's, but much bigger. Snow leopard. I told the chief we had half an hour more. If we didn't find them by then, we had to leave. He agreed. He felt responsible, but he wasn't going to die for 2 people who disobeyed orders. We reached a small peak, not the true summit of Yulong Mountain, just one of the smaller ridges above our village. Below us was a downhill slope leading deeper into the mountain range. Real dangerous territory. The chief wanted to turn back. I asked for 1 more minute and climbed a tall pine tree. From up high, I scanned the landscape, looking for one thing: red. Blood on white snow would be impossible to miss. If I saw none, it meant they were unhurt. I found it. Red spots, southeast, heading downhill, deeper into the mountains. My heart sank. They were injured and running away from us, not toward us. Whatever they'd encountered was bad enough that they couldn't turn back to find the group. I climbed down and told the chief. He gripped his cleaver and cursed them under his breath. But I could see in his eyes he wanted to go after them. He left the decision to me. I thought about it. Wang Wei and Sun Qian weren't bad people. Wang Wei talked too much and liked to show off, but when I needed help fixing my house, he worked the hardest. Sun Qian was quiet and decent. They were young and reckless, not evil. Nothing like Yulong. Let's go down. One quick look. If we still can't find them, we turn back. We went downhill into a flat area thick with pine trees. Then we heard it, the low growl of a snow leopard. That was actually good news. A snow leopard alone is manageable. Its fighting power is about equal to 1 adult man, and there were about to be 4 of us. I spotted blood trails. We were getting close. When we climbed over a small hill, we finally saw them. Wang Wei and Sun Qian were sitting back to back in the snow, tied together with rope. Sun Qian had cuts on his arm and face. Wang Wei's lower body was covered in blood, and he was slumped over, barely moving. Their wounds weren't from animal claws. Someone had done this to them. I grabbed the chief before he could rush down. Something's wrong. The snow leopard burst out of some bushes and ran off into the deep mountain. As it disappeared, 3 men stepped out from the trees. They wore armor and military boots. Each carried a curved sword. They had long, ugly beards and whips hanging from their belts, with fur ear covers bouncing as they laughed at the fleeing leopard. The instant Du Dahai saw them, he threw himself flat into the snow, face white with terror. I didn't recognize their uniforms from any memory of our country's soldiers. Who are they? I whispered. Xia soldiers, he hissed. Keep your head down. If they see us, we're dead. This was my first time seeing Xia soldiers. They spoke a language completely different from ours. Couldn't understand a word. Sun Qian was begging them to let him go. Wang Wei had his head down, too hurt to speak. The 3 soldiers looked at them like toys. Du Dahai grabbed my arm. Let's go report this to the authorities. This is beyond us. If we leave, they die, I said. Then they die? It's their fate. We can't risk our lives too. I understood his fear. In this world, Common people fear soldiers more than wild animals. Whenever there's war, civilians always suffer the most. But I wasn't afraid. In my past life, I wasn't just an outdoor streamer. I was a soldier, special forces. I trained in combat, killing techniques, shooting, archery, and trap making. Against 3 ancient soldiers, I had a decent chance. If there are really only 3 of them, I'm 80% sure I can save them, I told the chief. He paused. Tell me how. We made a plan. The chief would show himself, then run. That would draw most of them away. I'd handle whoever stayed behind. It worked. Du Dahai jumped out, and 2 of the 3 soldiers chased after him. Only one stayed to guard the prisoners. I drew my bow. The arrow was just sharpened wood, terrible killing power. But it hit the soldier's shoulder. He grabbed the wound in shock. It didn't take him down, but it didn't need to. I slung the bow on my back, grabbed my axe, and charged straight at him. Wang Wei and Sun Quan couldn't believe what they were seeing. Every commoner in this world runs from soldiers. Nobody charges at them. But I did. The Disya soldier roared and swung his long sword at me. It was powerful and heavy. I didn't try to block it. My combat training from my past life had fully merged with this body over the past few days. I sidestepped almost on instinct, dodged the blade, and buried my axe into him. On a real battlefield, when 2 fighters clash, it usually ends in one move. I'd bet right. He fell. He couldn't believe a skinny commoner had killed him. Heads down. Don't look at me. Don't say a word, I told Wang Wei and Sun Quan. Then I climbed a tree and waited. The other 2 soldiers came running back when they couldn't catch Du Dahai. They saw their dead comrade and rushed over. When they entered my range, I drew the bow again. This time I aimed for the neck. The first chest shot hadn't been enough. I wouldn't make that mistake twice. The arrow hit the second soldier right in the throat. He didn't fall, but he froze, sat down in the snow, and clutched his neck. He was done. I jumped down from the tree and cut Wang Wei and Sun Quan free. Pick up that sword and help me, I told Sun Quan. He was shaking all over, but he obeyed. Du Dahai appeared behind the last soldier with his cleaver. The 3 of us closed in from all sides. What do we do? Sun Quan asked. He was calling me, Brother Feng now. I looked at the last soldier coldly. Whether he was a scout or a patrol, I couldn't let him go. If he escaped, he'd bring back more. We attacked together. Kill him. The moment we moved, the soldier threw down his sword, dropped to his knees, and pressed his face to the ground in total surrender. While I was still on the mountain dealing with the Disya soldiers, things had gone bad back in the village. Du Cheng led the villagers home, but when they arrived, a group of government officers with torches was waiting. A county official named Liao Xiang had come personally, and standing right next to him was Yulong. The official's real purpose wasn't justice. It was grabbing young men to send to the front lines as soldiers. The war at the border was getting desperate, and he needed bodies. Anyone who broke the law could be legally drafted. And thanks to Yulong's report, he had the perfect excuse. These villagers had gone up Yulong Mountain, which was officially forbidden. He could call it treason, claim they were secretly communicating with the enemy nation Disya. Who told you people you could go up that mountain? The official sneered. Nobody dared answer. The village women and children came out crying, begging. Take our men and we all starve. But the official didn't care. Promotions mattered more than peasant lives. Every single villager cursed Yulong. You won't die a good death. No wonder Chu Feng cut ties with your family. Yulong just stood there silently with our mother, unmoved. He even told the official there were 4 more people still on the mountain, including me. Just as the officers started dragging the villagers away, my voice rang out from the mountaintop. We didn't go up there to hunt. And we didn't go to communicate with Disya. We went up there to catch Disya spies. Everyone froze. The official stopped and waited, his face dark. Lying to a government official meant execution. He clearly didn't believe a bunch of peasants could catch enemy soldiers. Then I walked into the torchlight. Du Dahai was beside me with his cleaver. Sun Quan was on my back. Wang Wei couldn't walk, so I'd carried him. And at the end of my rope was a Disya soldier, hands tied tight, stumbling forward. In my other hand, I held 2 heads strung together by their hair, still wearing Disya military caps. I threw the heads on the ground in front of the official. You wanted to arrest these villagers for supposedly helping the enemy. Here's your proof they didn't. We went up that mountain to protect our country from Disya spies. And these are the results. I kicked the prisoner to the ground. He started babbling in his foreign language, impossible to fake. The official's face went white. He shrank behind his guards. This man. I killed the other two myself, I said plainly. The official's tone changed instantly. Someone ride back and tell the county magistrate. Now, every single person in the village stared at me. In their eyes, I saw admiration, fear, shock, and something close to worship. Yulong and my mother stood frozen, speechless. They took all of us to the town. Because of the Xia soldiers, the whole government got involved. Even the county magistrate heard about it. But instead of throwing us in jail, they gave us a place to rest. The next morning, we were called to the government office. County Vice Magistrate Liao Xiong walked up to me with a completely different attitude than the night before. He patted my shoulder and smiled. Congratulations, young man. He handed me a paper, an official appointment. I'd been named the Mountain Patrol Guard of Yulong Mountain for killing 2 enemy soldiers and capturing 1. It wasn't a real government position, more like a forest ranger. Not much pay, but 2 things mattered. I could now hunt on the mountain legally, and I no longer had to pay grain taxes. The villagers crowded around to congratulate me. Nobody was jealous. They'd all seen me throw those heads on the ground. They knew what this cost. Sun Can followed me around like a puppy, calling me Brother Feng. Wang Wei was home in bed recovering, but he and Sun Can had already told people an exaggerated version of the mountain story, leaving out the part where they got captured, making the Xia soldiers sound terrifying, which only made me look more impressive. When we got back to the village, everyone went straight to the Chu family house. My mother tried to save face immediately. She put on a forced smile. As expected of a Chu. From now on, you'll get your full grain share. Come home anytime. You won't have to work. I looked at her coldly. Is the Chu family somewhere worth going back to? I turned and walked away. Whatever the village did to them was their business. The village chief handled it with village law. Yulong had reported his own people to the authorities and nearly got the entire village sent to prison as conscript soldiers. The verdict, permanent exile. Both Yulong and my mother were banned from the village. If they were found within 10 miles, they'd be beaten to death. I didn't feel much. They tried to destroy me and everyone who helped me. Not killing them myself was already mercy enough. All I wanted was to get home. When I reached our house, Xiao Xiao was standing at the door waiting, just like every time I went up the mountain. The moment she saw me, she ran into my arms and started crying. You're okay, you're okay. She kept repeating. Meow Meow and Binbin were still awake too, waiting up past bedtime. Meow Meow's little face was scrunched up, ready to cry, but I told her not to. She swallowed the tears, and her puffy expression made me laugh out loud. Xiao Xiao cooked a late meal. She steamed some sorghum rice the village chief had given us, then mixed in pork lard cracklings and chopped wild scallions. Simple pig fat rice, but after the day I'd had, it smelled like heaven. Meow Meow begged for a bite. I spooned some into her mouth. How does it taste? She shook her head. I don't know. Did the dog eat it instead of you? I glanced at Binbin. No, I ate it too fast and didn't taste anything. Give me another bite. Xiao Xiao and I burst out laughing. We gave her a full bowl. The 3 of us ate our pork fat rice together, then climbed onto the warm bed. I lay there thinking. I was officially a mountain patrol guard now, higher rank than the village chief. No more hiding my catches. Tomorrow I'd sell the pelts and extra meat in town, buy some grain and supplies. We couldn't just eat meat all the time. We'd need vegetables and grains too. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard it. Snap. The iron trap on the woodshed roof. Something had triggered it. I threw off the blanket and ran outside. That night, the trap on the woodshed roof snapped shut. I grabbed my axe and ran out. Binbin was barking. At least he woke up this time. But when I climbed up to check, the trap had closed on nothing. The meat was gone. Leopard paw prints on the roof told me everything. That clever cat had snatched the bait and escaped the trap. Lucky animal, I muttered. I locked everything up tight, brought Binbin inside our room, and went back to sleep. Before dawn, I was up. Today was market day. Xiao Xiao helped me prepare everything. 40 pounds of pork and 40 pounds of lamb, plus the 2 animal hides. 80 pounds total on my shoulders. At the village entrance, a man named Zhao Yuxiang was waiting with the village cart. When he saw all the meat, his jaw dropped. They said you got lucky on the mountain. This isn't luck, this is skill. On the way, I learned more about the area. Our village, Yulong village, was under Shuling town, which also controlled two other villages, Taoyuan and Shilio. Beyond the town was Shuetia City, the biggest city nearby, sitting right at the border with the Xia. The two nations had been fighting over Yulong Mountain for years, and ordinary people like us paid the price. When we reached the town market, it was surprisingly busy. Merchants, restaurants, even a brothel, all running like there was no war at all. Meanwhile, villagers outside were starving to pay grain taxes. That's the ancient world for you. I set up my meat and hides, and within minutes a man approached. He was the owner of Spring Wind Restaurant, a nice-looking place in town. Is that pork and lamb? I'll take all of it. Come with me. I was shocked it sold so fast. He explained that there were no more slaughterhouses. All food supplies were being sent to the front lines. Restaurants had to buy from whoever they could find. He counted out the payment. Pork at 5 copper coins per pound, lamb at 6. 40 pounds of each came to 450 coins, roughly half a tael of silver. That was serious money for a villager. Then he stopped me before I left. Can you keep supplying me? We're always short on ingredients. I told him I was the official mountain patrol guard now. His face lit up. Perfect. One more thing. There's a rich man's birthday feast coming up. I need oil toads and crayfish. 10 coins per toad, 2 coins per crayfish. However many you can catch, I'll buy them all. 100, 1,000. I'll take every single one. My eyes lit up. You mean it? My name is Lu Wenliang. This is my restaurant. I stand by my word. I shook his hand. Deal. See you soon, Boss Lu. For 150 copper coins didn't go as far as I'd hoped. Fine grain cost a fortune, 1 tael of silver per stone. I only bought 10 pounds, which ate up over 100 coins. Then I spent another 100 on some cheap makeup and powder for Xiao Xiao. She deserved something nice. 10 more coins on 2 candy figurines for Meow Meow. Just like that, half my money was gone. This won't last, I thought. 1 pig and 1 sheep wasn't enough to build a good life. When I got back to the village, Du Dahai met me at the entrance looking worried. Hurry home. Your father is causing trouble at your house. My father? I'd almost forgotten he existed. The original Chu Feng's memories barely included this man. He was basically a deadbeat, spent his whole life lying in bed, never worked a day, never earned a single coin. When the village expelled my mother and Chu Long yesterday, this so-called father didn't even show his face. Now he suddenly appeared. When I arrived, the old man was pulling Meow Meow by the arm, trying to drag her away. Xiao Xiao was holding our daughter tight, refusing to let go. Villagers stood around yelling at him to stop. The old man was screaming like a lunatic. Chu Feng threw out his own mother and brother. I can't live anymore. I'm taking his daughter to the river. We'll die together. The moment I heard that, something inside me snapped. I grabbed his arm and squeezed until his face twisted in pain. He let go of Meow Meow immediately. You want to die? I said ice cold. I threw him to the ground. He started his act, rolling around, wailing about how his son was a beast who destroyed the family. Classic emotional blackmail. I put my axe against his neck. Everyone froze. Du Dahai grabbed me. You can't. He's your father. You'll go to prison. I looked back at Xiao Xiao and Meow Meow. If I don't stop him, what happens when he comes after my wife and daughter again? The chief had no answer. I raised the axe. The old man finally realized I wasn't the weak, obedient Chu Feng anymore. He scrambled away, terrified. He'd come here thinking the old trick would work, threatened to die, and the soft-hearted son gives in. He never expected me to nearly kill him in front of the whole village. Just as the axe was about to come down again, Xiao Xiao stepped between us. Her big eyes stared into mine, unblinking. Please calm down. I stopped. The villagers rushed in. Some grabbed the axe, others talked me down. If I'd actually killed him, my life would be over. In this dynasty, killing your own father means execution. No exceptions. The old man got up, shaking. His real reason for coming was simple. With my mother gone, nobody was feeding him or washing his clothes. He wanted to bully me into taking care of him. The suicide threat was just an act. He didn't have the guts. Just give me some grain and I'll leave. I won't bother you again, he stammered. I stepped toward him, ready to swing again. But Sunken appeared out of nowhere. He's your father. You can't hit him. But I can. He punched the old man square in the face. The old man turned to run and Wang Wei tripped him, sending him face first into the dirt. Sunken shouted, if you ever come near Brother Feng's family again, I'll be right here waiting. Nobody touches his daughter or his wife. Wang Wei stood up too, coughing but firm. If Sun Can didn't scare anyone, Wang Wei, the village tough guy, certainly did. The old man scrambled to his feet and ran off, yelling over his shoulder, "This isn't over." Chu Feng, the old man finally left. 50-something years old and acting like a giant baby. No wonder the once great Chu family fell apart. With a head of household like that, decline was inevitable. After the crowd cleared out, Xiao Xiao and Miao Miao held onto me tight. I'm all they have in this chaotic world. Xiao Xiao's voice was still shaking when she asked me to never be that reckless again. I promised her I wouldn't. I gave her the makeup powder I'd bought. Just like that, all the fear disappeared from her face. She said it was too expensive, but she carried it to our room like it was made of gold. Then I pulled out the candy figurines from Miao Miao. They'd frozen solid in the cold, which actually made them more fun. She was jumping up and down begging to eat one. With the fine rice I'd bought, Xiao Xiao cooked a big pot of white rice. It smelled so good you didn't even need a side dish. I had her pack a large bowl for the village chief. He'd done so much for us, helped with grain, gave me weapons, and just today stopped me from making the worst mistake of my life. I owe that man. At the chief's house, his family welcomed me warmly. Du Cheng sat quietly in the corner. They were actually eating meat now. My hunting had improved their lives too. Over dinner, I told the chief I planned to keep hunting. He tried to talk me out of it. "You're a patrol guard now. You get a salary, no grain tax. You could live peacefully." I was honest with him. "As long as this war continues, there's no peace here. I want to take my family somewhere safe, a real town or a city. For that, I need serious money." He went quiet. Then he stood up and dug through a shelf until he found an old sheepskin scroll. When he unrolled it, my eyes lit up. It was a map of Yulong Mountain. He explained that the village's ancestors were soldiers stationed here to guard against the Xia spies. That's why every family had hidden weapons, and that's where this map came from, passed down through generations. I studied it carefully. It was rough and small, just 2 palms wide, but I could make out a red dot at the bottom marking the village, mountain terrain with dotted paths above it, and on one side, a river. "There's a river up there?" I asked. Yulong Mountain is half a snow mountain. When the snow melts, streams flow downhill. The creek by Taoyuan village starts up there. My mind raced. If there's a river, there are crayfish. The restaurant owner said he'd pay 2 coins each, and 10 coins per oil toad. Unlimited quantity. The chief saw where I was going and shut it down immediately. "Forget it. Between here and that river is a dense forest. There's a bear in there that's killed who knows how many people. That's the real reason Yulong Mountain is so dangerous. Keep hunting on the outskirts." I nodded and didn't argue. But I noticed Du Cheng's eyes light up when he heard about the prices. I thanked the chief and headed home. Behind me, I could hear his wife saying, "Such a talented young man. It'd be a shame if he got himself killed." Du Cheng quietly said he was done eating and left the room too. I stayed home for a few days, keeping an eye on things. The snow leopard hadn't come back since it stole that meat, and my father stayed locked up in the Chu house. Good, but our food was running low. I always cooked enough for Xiao Xiao and Miao Miao first, which meant supplies disappeared fast. I couldn't go to town too often either. In times like these, showing up regularly with meat to sell makes you a target. Once a month was the plan. Early that morning, Xiao Xiao made 4 big rice balls stuffed with wild vegetables, salt, and a bit of oil. I told her to keep 2 since they were made with our precious white rice. She refused and packed all 4 into my basket. I kissed her before leaving. She turned bright red. Women in this era aren't used to that kind of thing. "Come back safe?" she whispered. This time I had the sheepskin map tucked in my coat. My plan was to push through the dense forest and find the source of the stream that flows down to Taoyuan village. The restaurant owner wanted oil toads at 10 coins each and crayfish at 2 coins each, and he'd buy as many as I could bring. In my past life, I'd seen both species in the northeast wilderness. The toads are actually northeast forest frogs, small but packed with flavor, better than bullfrogs. The crayfish are smaller than regular ones, but incredibly delicious. They only survive in perfectly clean water. Both creatures live near streams, and both would be near that river on the map. The toads would be hibernating in winter, but they'd still be findable near the water. I'd barely left the village when I spotted 3 figures squatting at the entrance, bundled up so thick they looked like bears. Sun Can, Du Cheng, and Wang Wei. "Brother Feng, we've been waiting for days." They'd been getting up before dawn every morning, hoping to catch me heading out. Du Chung admitted he'd overheard my conversation with his father about the toads and crayfish. He knew I'd go after them eventually. For people is safer and faster than one. We'll do whatever you say. Just give us 20%. He had a point. More hands meant more catches and better safety. All three had brought tools and supplies. They'd been planning this. Fine. But you follow my orders. No exceptions. The four of us headed deep into the mountain. No snow falling today, but bitterly cold. We followed the map toward the dense forest, the same place where I'd rescued Wang Wei and Sun Can from the Disya soldiers. Think those soldiers are still around? Sun Can asked nervously. Probably not. Those three were likely lost and stumbled into you two unlucky idiots by accident. Wang Wei smacked Sun Can. He called you an unlucky idiot. Sun Can smacked him back. Being young, the banter kept the mood light. Du Chung studied the map as we walked. We'd been in the forest nearly an hour, getting close to the northern edge. Beyond that, the stream's upper section should be nearby, the source of Taoyuan Village's creek. The guys were relaxing. Du Chung laughed. Dad said there's a bear in this forest. We've walked an hour and haven't seen anything. Wang Wei chuckled. It's winter. Bears hibernate, remember? Right then, I stopped dead. I raised my hand, and everyone went silent. I stared into the heavy snow ahead, frowning. You're right, I said slowly. Bears are supposed to be hibernating. So why isn't this one? We found a massive footprint in the snow. Sun Can put his foot inside it. The print swallowed his entire shoe. Bear. And it was fresh. I checked the map. The dense forest wasn't big. If we went west instead of north, we could avoid going deeper into the mountain and reach the upper section of Taoyuan Village's stream. The bear tracks pointed north. Going west was the safer bet. Head west, I decided. Nobody argued. We pushed through, and luckily made it out of the forest without seeing the bear. Everyone exhaled. We found the stream, still flowing despite the cold. The water moved fast enough that it hadn't frozen over. We spread out and started hunting. Oil toads were hibernating in little dirt mounds along the banks, easy to dig out when they're sluggish. Crayfish were harder to find, hiding under rocks and snow near the water's edge. We searched for over 2 hours. When we put our baskets together, each person had about a dozen toads and 20-something crayfish. Not bad for a first trip. I told everyone it was time to leave before dark. We took a path along the edge of the forest instead of cutting through it. Longer but safer, away from the bear's territory. Maybe it was the excitement of a good haul. We got careless. Talking, joking, not paying attention. Even I let my guard down. Then I looked up and froze. Stop. A massive brown bear stood about 30 meters ahead, staring straight at us. Motionless. This thing was enormous. Its shoulder height was over 1.5 meters, body length at least 2 meters. One ear had a chunk missing. One eye was blind. The remaining eye locked onto us with a look I'll never forget. Cruel, amused, hungry. My legs feel weak, Sun Can whispered, trembling. Stand up straight, I snapped. The second you show weakness, it charges and bites your head off. I'd studied bear encounters my whole past life, but never actually faced one. Theory was all I had. Spread your arms wide. Make yourselves look big. Hold your weapons up. Walk forward. Forward, Wang Wei said in disbelief. You think you can outrun a bear in snow? They hit 50 kilometers an hour. Walk toward it. Don't let it think we're afraid. So the four of us spread our arms, raised our weapons, and walked toward the bear, shouting as loud as we could. It didn't work. The bear didn't back off. It started walking toward us. My heart sank. Up close I could see every detail. The torn ear, the blind eye, the teeth bearing in what almost looked like a grin. This wasn't a normal bear. This was the killer the village chief had warned about. A terrible thought crossed my mind. I looked at Wang Wei. He was still injured, the slowest runner. If I turned and sprinted, Du Chung, Sun Can, and I could probably escape. A hibernating bear that just woke up is hungry. One person would be enough to satisfy it. I'm not proud of that thought. But when death is staring at you, selfishness is honest. The bear kept coming. We could see its teeth now. Then Wang Wei spoke up. Brother Feng, if it weren't for us three slowing you down, you could definitely escape, right? I didn't answer. Listen up, he said to all of us. If this thing charges, you three run. I'll hold it off. My body's still wrecked. I can't run anyway. I'll buy you time. Just promise me one thing. Don't look back. He gripped his hoe, stepped past the three of us, and walked straight toward the bear. Alone, I felt ashamed of myself for even thinking about leaving Wang Wei behind. I grabbed his arm. Don't be reckless, the bear charged. Death was closing in on all four of us. Could I really abandon this guy? He was willing to die so the rest of us could live. Sure, Wang Wei could be arrogant and jealous sometimes. But what he just did proved he was a good man. I couldn't let him die in front of me. There had to be another way. We backed up. The bear saw through our bluff. We were all talk. It picked up speed. Then, out of nowhere, a familiar shape appeared behind the bear. The snow leopard. Before I could even process it, the leopard sprinted forward and launched itself onto the bear's back, biting down hard. The bear roared, a sound that echoed across the entire mountain range. Its skin was thick, but that bite hurt. My first thought was that we were finished. A bear and a leopard? But then I realized the leopard wasn't attacking us. It was attacking the bear. On purpose. Why would a snow leopard pick a fight with something that could kill it easily? I had no idea, but I knew an opportunity when I saw one. Run, we sprinted. Sun Can and I grabbed Wang Wei under each arm. Du Cheng pushed from behind. We ran until the sky turned black. Thanks to the map and my sense of direction, we barely made it back to the village before total darkness. At the bottom of the mountain, we looked at each other and laughed, the kind of laugh that only comes after nearly dying. The three of them gave me all their crayfish and toads. Then Wang Wei shook his head. I believe the village chief now. That mountain might not be cursed, but it's deadly. This life isn't for me. Du Cheng and Sun Can didn't say it out loud, but their eyes said the same thing. They were done. Honestly, even I was shaken, and I'd been doing outdoor survival my whole past life. That night, I couldn't sleep. Why did that snow leopard save us? Wild animals don't think like that. Attacking a bear is basically suicide for a leopard. It made no sense. Before dawn, I packed up the toads and crayfish for the market. I opened the front door and took 2 steps, then froze. Something was lying by the fence. I grabbed my axe. Get inside, I told Xiao Xiao. It was the snow leopard, lying in the snow, breathing heavily. Its belly and back were torn up from the fight with the bear. The blood had frozen solid on its fur. It looked like it had been waiting there all night. When it saw me, it slowly stood up. It had something in its mouth. It walked toward me, closer than we'd ever been. My skin crawled. Every hair on my body stood up. I gripped the axe, ready to strike. But it wasn't attacking. A few meters away, it opened its mouth and set something down in the snow. A tiny creature tumbled out, flailing around, letting out a soft, kitten-like cry. A cub. The snow leopard looked at me one last time. Then it turned and disappeared into the falling snow. The snow leopard ran off, leaving me and Xiao Xiao staring at the tiny creature squirming in the snow. It was a snow leopard cub, eyes still closed, crying like a newborn kitten. Looked just like a baby cat. I pieced it together. The leopard was a mother. She probably had several cubs, and the bear likely killed the rest. That's why she attacked the bear yesterday, revenge. And that attack is what saved our lives. She'd been alive long enough to develop some kind of intelligence. She knew she was too injured to raise her last cub, so she brought it to the one human who'd once given her food. The irony stung. That meat had been bait in a trap meant to catch her. What's happening? Xiao Xiao asked, bewildered. Just bring it inside, I said. We had no milk, so Xiao Xiao mashed some rice into water and made rice soup for the little thing. I couldn't stay. The toads and crayfish needed to get to the market while they were still alive. I rushed to town, sold everything to Boss Lou at Spring Wind Restaurant for 1 tael of silver total. I split it with the guys as agreed, 20% each for them, 40 for me. That came to 400 coins for me. I delivered their shares and hurried home. When I got back, I heard a low growl outside. My hand went to the axe. But once again, the leopard meant no harm. She was dragging a small roe deer toward our house. When she saw me, she let it go and disappeared into the snow. I stood there stunned. She'd brought us food. The family supplies were getting low, and I'd been planning another hunt. Now I didn't have to. She'd caught a small one, probably all she could manage while injured. Do the animals here really have souls? I wondered out loud. Maybe, Xiao Xiao said. Old folks used to talk about spirit animals on the mountain. I put the little cub in the woodshed. Bin kept sniffing it and barking, but the cub just drank its rice soup and fell asleep. Peaceful little thing. Since I'm officially the mountain patrol guard now, I butchered the deer right out in the open. No more hiding. Village chief Du Dahai came by. He asked if he could buy some meat, then got a bit awkward. He explained that the village had held a meeting that morning. With the government collecting grain more and more frequently, families were running out. They wanted to ask if I'd sell my extra meat directly to the villagers at a slightly lower price than the town market. Just 2 or 3 coins less per pound. I said yes without hesitating. It was simple math. Hauling meat to town costs me half a day and a lot of energy, with no guarantee I'll sell everything. Selling to villagers at a small discount saves me time and effort. I actually come out ahead. And the villagers could buy cheap from me, sell at full price in town, and pocket the difference. That money lets them buy grain to pay their taxes and feed their families. Everyone wins. I save time. They make money. They're grateful to me. My family's position in the village gets stronger, which means Xiao Xiao and Miao Miao are safer. Du Dahai practically sprinted to the village center where everyone was waiting. He said yes. Chu Feng agreed. Business picked up fast. Villagers started coming to my house one after another to buy meat. Wang Wei and Sun Can came first. They didn't have money, so they traded rough rice instead. I gave them fair market value. Most people only bought a pound or 2. Nobody had much savings during a famine, but it added up. I sold off everything we could spare, leftover wild boar, lamb, and roe deer, keeping just enough for my family. The villagers didn't just eat it themselves. They carried the extra to town and resold it at higher prices, making a small profit. That money let them buy grain for the next tax collection. My hunting was keeping the whole village afloat. Word spread beyond our village. People in other settlements heard that Yulong village had an official mountain patrol guard who hunted and sold meat to his neighbors. Somehow the story reached Shiliu village, Xiao Xiao's hometown. Xiao Xiao's grandmother, Wang Xiufan, hadn't thought about her granddaughter in 6 years. She'd married Xiao Xiao off for just 2 bags of rough rice and never checked on her once. But now that the neighbors were buzzing about her granddaughter's successful husband, she got ideas. She kicked open her son Zhou Yoji's door, Xiao Xiao's father, and told him there was an opportunity to get free food and maybe even drinking money. He was up in seconds. Xiao Xiao and I had no idea they were coming. That day, Xiao Xiao was visiting the village widow, Li, who was giving her silkworm eggs. I'd sold Li some cheap meat earlier, and she was repaying the kindness. The cocoons could be sold to tailors in town next spring. I stayed home working. I'd borrowed a hammer and anvil from the chief and was breaking apart the old iron trap, piece by piece. The iron could be shaped into real arrowheads, sharp ones, not the useless wooden tips I'd been using. I'd already made 6 proper arrows with iron points and feather fletching. The feathers came from 2 chickens I'd traded for with the village carpenter. Those poor birds were running around the yard half-plucked, with Binbin chasing them. The rooster fought back. It was chaos. Miao Miao kept scolding Binbin for bullying the chickens. The little snow leopard cub, Miao Miao named her Hua Hua, had opened her eyes. Since I was the first thing she saw and the one who fed her, she thought I was her father. She followed me everywhere, sitting quietly and watching whatever I did. I planned to release her on the mountain once she was big enough. A meat-eating leopard would drain our food supply fast. For now she was tiny and only drank rice soup, so I let it be. The mother leopard hadn't returned since dropping off the roe deer. With her injuries and the dangers on the mountain, I didn't know if she was alive or dead. I was halfway through hammering out another arrowhead when Binbin started barking. A moment later, Sun Can came sprinting toward my house, out of breath. Brother Foam, get to the village entrance. Someone's trying to take your wife. My blood went cold. Someone was grabbing Xiao Xiao? In my own village? I snatched the axe and ran. I heard the commotion before I even got close. Xiao Xiao's grandmother Wang Xiufan was screaming at the village entrance, dragging Xiao Xiao by the arm. Xiao Xiao's father Zhou Yoji stood beside her, demanding 100 pounds of grain. These people hadn't cared about Xiao Xiao for 6 years. They sold her off for 2 bags of rough rice when she was 16. Her mother died giving birth to her, so they labeled Xiao Xiao as cursed. That's the only reason a woman as beautiful as her ended up married to the old Chu Feng for practically nothing. And now that they'd heard I was doing well, they showed up with their hands out. Xiao Xiao had refused them. Even if we had it, I wouldn't give you a single grain. That was new for her. She used to be as meek as the original Chu Feng. But she'd changed. She told them she wasn't a Zhou anymore. She was a Chu. When her father pulled off his shoe to slap her face, The villagers stepped in. An old man stood in front of Xiao Xiao. The widow Li grabbed the grandmother's hands. Sun Can and Du Cheng showed up with sticks, glaring. Touch our sister-in-law and see what happens. But the grandmother was clever. She dropped to the ground and started wailing. She's turning outsiders against her own family. What kind of granddaughter does this? The father copied her, kneeling and crying about being betrayed. Classic emotional blackmail. The villagers couldn't really interfere with someone else's family business, and they knew it. Xiao Xiao started crying, not knowing how to fight back. Her reputation in the village was at stake. That's when I arrived. Axe in hand. Other people might be outsiders, I said. But I'm not. I walked up to Zhou Yoji and kicked him square in the face. His nose exploded with blood and 2 teeth went flying. It happened so fast nobody could react. By the time they did, he was on the ground, howling. The grandmother jumped up screaming. You hit your own father-in-law. Have you no shame? Shame? Can shame feed my family or keep us warm? You never raised Xiao Xiao. You beat her. You sold her for 2 bags of rice at 16. Now you want 100 pounds of grain. Where do you get the nerve? She's our family. She owes us, fine. Then I'll kill you both right now, and she won't owe anyone anything. I raised the axe. Since coming to this world, I'd learned one thing about dealing with people like this. You can't reason with them. You have to be scarier than they are. The moment you're more vicious, they back down. Every single time. Then I heard Xiao Xiao's soft voice behind me. Husband. After I calmed down, I realized I couldn't actually use that axe. Even if Xiao Xiao's family was terrible, killing her father and grandmother in front of her would destroy everything between us. The old woman collapsed on the ground, too scared to speak. Zhou Yoji picked her up and they started to leave, cursing us. Sun Can stepped forward with his stick. Chu Feng can't touch you because you're family. But we can. If you go back and spread lies about them, we'll bury you on Yulong Mountain and nobody will ever know. That scared them. In times like these, the government can barely keep track of anything. 2 people disappearing from a village? Nobody would investigate. They were about to slink away when luck fell in their lap. County Vice Magistrate Liao Xiong walked up with a group of officers. Zhou Yoji threw himself at Liao's feet, showing off his missing teeth and bloody face. Your Honor, my evil son-in-law beat me. That man with the axe, arrest him. Liao looked up, saw me, and gave me a nod. Then he turned cold toward Zhou Yoji. You want to file a complaint? Fine. Take the plaintiff to the courthouse. 30 strikes with the rod first, as the law requires. Zhou Yoji panicked. Wait, I'm not filing a complaint. I just happened to run into you. So you're wasting an official's time? You know the penalty for that? No, sir, I'm sorry. Forget the whole thing. Liao let him go with an icy warning. You're not from this village. Leave now. People die on snowy roads all the time. Zhou Yoji wasn't stupid. He understood. This official was protecting me. The 2 of them ran off without another word. The villagers were surprised. They'd expected trouble whenever government people showed up, but instead Liao had just solved my problem. With the government backing me, Xiao Xiao's family wouldn't dare spread rumors. After the crowd cleared, Liao got serious. He called for me and the village chief. I'm here on official business. You know the wealthy Tian family? Their daughter was kidnapped during Old Man Tian's birthday banquet. We tracked the kidnappers into Yulong Mountain. My officers don't know the mountain, but you do. In 3 days, a search team will arrive. I need you to guide them. Before that, go up and scout for any clues. He pushed forward a big, tough-looking man. Tian Zhuang, the head officer. The guy looked arrogant, wouldn't even glance at me. He'll stay in the village and work with you. Pull this off, and you'll be well rewarded. The whole situation was strange. What does a mountain patrol guard have to do with a kidnapping case? But I'm on the government payroll now, so when they say go, I go. I'd already figured out that Tian Zhuang was the missing girl's brother. The Tian family, a wealthy landlord clan, had their daughter taken during the old man's birthday feast. In an era where girls are considered worthless, the fact that the government was putting this much effort into finding her meant the Tian family had serious connections. Tian Zhuang didn't want to waste time. We go up now, he said. So I went home to gear up. When he saw the bow and arrows on my back, he immediately barked about illegal weapons. I shut him down fast. Go ahead and report me. Then find someone else to guide you through that mountain. Meanwhile, your sister disappears forever. He glared at me, but said nothing more. Xiao Xiao packed me some vegetable rice balls, and we headed up. On the way, I tried to get information. He didn't want to talk to me at first, too proud, but I convinced him that sharing details would help his sister. How long have they been on the mountain? I asked. About 2 days. Then she's probably still alive, I said. A person can survive 2 weeks without food. Water isn't a problem with all this snow. But the real danger is the cold. At night, temperatures on Yulong Mountain drop to deadly levels. Without shelter or fire, they might not last a week. Maybe not even tonight. Tianzhuang stared at me, hand on his sword. How does a village patrol guard know all this? I ignored the suspicion and pulled out the sheepskin map. His eyes went wide. You have a map of Yulong Mountain? That made him even more suspicious. No such map existed publicly. Where did they enter the mountain? I asked. He pointed to the stream near Taoyuan village. My heart sank. That's the bear's territory. I don't care if it's a dragon's territory. We're going. He drew his sword on me. Relax. We'll go. I led the way into the dense forest. The snow was heavier than previous days, making every step a struggle. Tianzhuang was gasping for air within the first hour. I barely noticed. I was used to it. He was supposedly a top 100 military exam candidate, but he couldn't keep up with a lowly patrol guard. His pride wouldn't let him ask me to slow down, so he just pushed harder, muttering to himself. Then he walked straight into my back when I stopped suddenly. What? Tired already? He started to gloat. Shut up, he nearly exploded. Nobody tells him to shut up, apparently. Not even the county vice magistrate. But I wasn't interested in his ego. We'd made it through the forest without running into the bear. Lucky break. What I was looking at was far worse. Ahead of us, bright red blood stained the white snow. The blood on the snow was hard to miss, bright red against endless white. Tianzhuang rushed over and glanced at it. It's frozen. No idea when it was left. That's pretty amateur, I said. He didn't appreciate the comment, but I didn't care. I studied the scene carefully. In my past life, my squad leader once tried to recruit me into the police because of my forensic tracking skills. I'd even won second-class merit in a military exercise because of it. This blood is less than half an hour old, I said. Any older, and the snow would have buried it. Someone was badly wounded, maybe dead. The wound was large. The blood sprayed over 2 meters, which means it was arterial. The footprints around here are messy. There was a fight, and multiple people were involved. I walked around the blood pool and a nearby tree, reading the ground like a book. Tianzhuang started out looking unimpressed, but by the time I finished, his eyes were wide and his arrogance was gone, replaced by suspicion. They went north, I said. That was bad news. East led home. West led to Taoyuan village. Either direction would have been manageable. But north meant deeper into Yulong Mountain, toward the second peak, higher altitude, colder temperatures, more dangerous animals, and worst of all, Xia soldiers who used mountain paths to sneak into our territory. Where did you learn all this? Tianzhuang asked, studying me carefully. Grew up in the mountains, I said without blinking. I can look at an animal track and tell you what it was, when it passed, which direction it went, and how far it traveled. I'm just doing the same thing with human tracks, he nodded slowly. With skills like yours, you'd be valued as a detective. Don't have the connections for that. I asked if he really wanted to keep going. It would only get more dangerous. You don't have a choice, he said, gripping his sword. So we pushed on. The terrain between the first and second peaks was brutal. Deep snow, frozen underneath, soft on top. Tianzhuang kept slipping and falling. He complained about why I walked in zigzag patterns instead of climbing straight up. Less resistance on the slope. I started to explain, then gave up. Walk however you want. Fall off the mountain. That's your problem. He almost fell right after I said that. After that he shut up and followed my path. We finally reached the top of the second peak. It wasn't a summit. It was a flat, rocky plateau. No trees, no grass. Nothing but white stone and white snow stretching out under a white sky. Total emptiness. And then I saw them. A group of people, out there on the plateau. Why'd you stop again? Tianzhuang started. I shoved his head down into the snow before he could finish. We lay flat at the edge of the cliff, looking down at the plateau. About a dozen bandits were gathered around the rocks. Their leader, a bald man named Zhao Yutian, sat on a boulder catching his breath. His second-in-command, Xing Er, a skinny guy with a scar on his face, stood beside him. They were talking openly, not expecting anyone to be watching. Zhao Yutian planned to hide on the mountain for a few days, then demand ransom from old man Tian. When Xing'er pointed out that the girl was pretty, Zhao laughed and said she could serve as emergency food if things got desperate. They'd tell her father she was alive whether she was or not. I heard a woman's voice cut through the cold air, sharp and fearless. It was Tian Xin, the kidnapped daughter. Even with blood on her face from being slapped, she mocked them. You call yourselves rebels? You can't even manage proper banditry. She had guts, I'll give her that. Tian Zhuang was grinding his teeth beside me, barely holding himself together. After hearing enough, I told him we should head back and report. Mission done, we found the bandits, confirmed the girl was alive. Go back? There's no time, he hissed. The army needs 3 days to get here. My own officers are useless cowards who won't even step into the mountain. And those animals just talked about eating my sister. I'm going now, I grabbed him. There are over a dozen of them. The two of us can't fight that many. I'm leaving. That's when things turned ugly. He blocked my path. I know where you live. I know you have a wife and daughter. And that comment you made earlier about good emperors and bad emperors? I tell the magistrate, and your whole family gets executed. He drew his sword and stared me down. This wasn't just a government officer anymore. This was the eldest son of the Tian family, connected to the general of Shuetia City. Nobody had ever said no to him. The fact that I kept pushing back had pushed him over the edge. My blood boiled. For a moment, I considered how easy it would be to kill him on this mountain where nobody would ever find the body. But then I smiled. You're right. But if you actually want to save your sister, I have a better plan. What plan? First, come hunting with me. I turned and slid down the steep cliff face before he could argue. I shot a snow rabbit clean through the head from over 10 meters away. Tian Zhuang watched me do it, and his suspicion deepened. No normal patrol guard can shoot like that, he said, hand on his sword. You're either a deserter from the front lines or an enemy spy. I ignored him. I had a plan, and the rabbit was the key. I cut open the rabbit's artery to release the smell of blood. Then we climbed back up to the second peak. We lay flat in the snow until dark, freezing, waiting. When the bandits came out to patrol, I had Tian Zhuang throw the frozen rabbit carcass near their camp. Xing'er found it and brought it to their leader. Zhao Yutian was suspicious. A dead rabbit appearing out of nowhere on a frozen mountaintop. But they were starving. They didn't throw it away. They lit a fire and roasted it, fur and all. The smell of burning meat drifted across the mountain. That was exactly what I wanted. My plan wasn't to fight a dozen armed bandits with just 2 people. That would be suicide. I needed reinforcements, the wild kind. The dense forest below had a bear that refused to hibernate. The slopes around the second peak had wolves. Both were starving in this endless winter. All I had to do was create a strong enough scent to draw them in. Killing the rabbit and letting its blood spread the smell was the first step. The bandits roasting it over a fire was the second. Cooked meat carries much farther than raw. Within the hour, I heard it. Wolf howls. Getting closer. Getting louder. The bandits heard it too. Xing'er was confused. Weren't wild animals supposed to fear fire? But hungry wolves in the dead of winter don't follow the usual rules. I see green eyes. One of the bandits shouted from the edge of the plateau. Xing'er waved it off. Let them come. 13 of us against a few wolves. They'll be our next meal. From our hiding spot, buried in snow, I watched the green eyes multiply. More and more wolves gathering below the cliff. I'd hoped the bear would come too, but the wolf pack was a good start. Then the alpha appeared, nearly 2 meters long. A massive, terrifying animal. Tian Zhuang almost bolted when he saw it. I stayed perfectly still, and he forced himself to stay too. The wolves began climbing toward the plateau. Boss, the wolves are here, one of the bandits yelled. Zhao Yutian shouted back, then kill them. I stayed buried in the snow, watching, waiting. The real show was about to begin. The wolves came, and they were hungry enough to attack humans. 2 bandits swaggered forward, laughing about eating wolf meat. They didn't understand wolves at all. The pack retreated to draw them out, then flanked from the sides. 4 wolves hit them from one direction. While the men turned to fight, 2 more wolves lunged at their exposed backs. Screams rang out across the plateau. The other bandits rushed in with weapons, but the wolves were smarter. They hit and ran, using the snow to their advantage. The bandits had no formation, no teamwork. One by one they went down, bitten, dragged, throats torn open. My plan was working. Tian Zhuang stared at me in shock. You planned this from the beginning? I just looked at him and smiled. Then something I didn't expect. Bang! A cloud of smoke. The smell of gunpowder. Zhao Yutian had a gun, a crude musket I'd mistaken for a stick. He fired at a wolf, but missed, hitting the ground near its feet. He fumbled to reload, pouring powder, ramming the ball. Too slow. A wolf tackled him before he could finish. He managed a second shot, hit a wolf in the leg. But it was the alpha. The pain only made the pack more vicious. Zhao Yutian ran for the snow shelter. The wolves followed. Within minutes, the bear arrived too. Tian Zhuang saw his chance and jumped up to rescue his sister. Idiot. The wolves spotted him immediately and turned his way. But then they all stopped and ran the opposite direction. Tian Zhuang almost smiled. Must be my commanding presence. Then a shadow fell over him. A wall of stinking fur blocked the wind behind him. He turned around and found the one-eared, one-eyed bear standing right there, looking amused. He drew his sword. Too slow. The bear bit down on his arm and ripped it clean off. Then it tossed him aside like garbage and went straight for the snow shelter. It smashed through the walls and tore through the surviving bandits. It bit Zhao Yutian in half. In minutes, everyone inside was dead. The bear wasn't even hungry. It just enjoyed killing. Then it turned and looked at me. And it smiled. An actual, deliberate grin. I've never seen anything like that on an animal's face. I couldn't run. A bear is faster than any human. I grabbed Tian Zhuang's fallen sword and faced it head-on. Just when I thought it was over, a roar came from behind. The mother snow leopard leaped onto the plateau, staring the bear down. The bear's eyes filled with rage. These two were old enemies. It abandoned me and chased after the leopard. They disappeared into the blizzard. I stood there, breathing hard, until the bear was truly gone. Save me, please. Tian Zhuang was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, or what was left of it. The arm was gone. I walked over to him, but I didn't help. You know what I hate most in this world? I said. Save me, and I'll make you rich. Abandon me, and my family will destroy you. He growled, still threatening even now. He thought I was just going to leave him. He didn't understand. From the moment he threatened my wife and daughter on that mountain, I'd already made my decision. I smiled, the same smile the bear had given me. What I hate most, I said, is people who threaten me. Especially people who threaten my family. I raised the sword and swung. Tian Zhuang's head flew off. Even at the end, he never imagined I'd actually do it. I felt something in my chest. Discomfort, maybe, but it passed quickly. I'd seen dead bodies in my past life as a soldier, though I'd never killed anyone with my own hands before. But this isn't my past life. In this brutal ancient world, I can't afford to leave anyone alive who might threaten my family. The moment he threatened Xiao Xiao and Miao Miao, his fate was sealed. Tian Xian was still wrapped in animal hides nearby, crying, completely unaware of what had happened between me and her brother. She hadn't heard our conversation. We'd been too far away. That meant I had no reason to kill her. I'm not a monster. I don't murder without cause. I moved the campfire closer to her so she wouldn't freeze to death, then turned my attention to something far more important. In Zhao Yotian's hand was the fire stick. Up close, I finally recognized it, a fire lance. A primitive gun. It used gunpowder to launch iron pellets through a straight barrel. Deadly within 20 meters, unreliable beyond that, useless past 50. Not a real gun by modern standards, but in this world, it was advanced technology. His black bundle contained paper cartridges pre-packed with gunpowder, an iron ramrod for loading, and a fire striker for ignition. Paper cartridge technology, I recognized it from military history. In my old world, this kind of innovation turned battles, thousands defeating tens of thousands. This was a treasure, and extremely dangerous to possess. I grabbed the bundle and ran. Down the second peak, through the forest, past the first peak, all the way home. By the time I reached the village, dawn was breaking. A light was still on in our house. Xiao Xiao had waited up all night. I knocked. She opened the door and gasped at the blood covering me. Listen carefully, I said, handing her the black bundle. Hide this. Somewhere nobody will ever find it. Don't tell anyone, not even the village chief. If anyone discovers this, our whole family dies. She nodded without asking questions. Then I grabbed Tian Zhuang's sword and limped to town. At the government office, I told Vice Magistrate Liao my story, the version I needed him to believe. Tian Zhuang had fought the bandits bravely, but was killed. Wolves and a bear finished off the rest. I barely escaped with my life and ran back to report. Liao nearly fainted from panic. Tian Zhuang was from the powerful Tian family. But when I mentioned that sending men now would mean claiming credit for wiping out the bandits, his eyes lit up. He sent me back up the mountain with 10 officers. Another full day of climbing. The officers complained the whole way, but when they reached the plateau and saw the carnage, human and wolf bodies everywhere, not a single survivor, they scrambled over each other to claim the glory. I quietly walked to the back and tied 3 dead wolves together with rope. Mind if I take these? I asked. Go ahead, they said, not caring about wolf carcasses when there was credit to be grabbed. The officers found Tian Xian wrapped in hides, barely conscious. Whether she was alive or dead, I didn't check. Not my problem anymore. I dragged 3 wolves home. The whole village had been waiting, knowing something big happened when they saw me leave with government officers. When I came strolling back alone, pulling 3 wolf corpses behind me, Wang Wei shouted from across the village, "Brother Feng, you're incredible." When I came back dragging 3 dead wolves, the whole village stared. Wolves had been terrorizing them for a long time. They'd even gone after the village chief once. Nobody had ever brought back dead wolves before. I didn't explain how they really died. Everyone just assumed I'd killed them, and I let them believe it. Du Dehai pulled me aside, worried. He'd heard strange sounds from the mountain last night, animal roars, and something that sounded like an explosion. He'd been up all night worrying about me. "You sure you're okay?" he asked. I told him I was fine. I butchered the wolves and sold most of the meat to the villagers at my usual fair price. Cheap enough for them to make a profit reselling in town, but not so cheap they'd take me for granted. I kept some for my family. Neither in this life nor my last had I ever tasted wolf meat. The officers came down the mountain carrying Tian Zhuang's body and escorting Tian Xian. She was shaking, barely able to walk, but alive. As they passed through the village, she turned and looked at me. First time I saw her face clearly. She was pretty, from what I could tell at that distance. But that wasn't my concern. Nobody from the government asked me any questions. They just left. Good. At home, Binbin and Huahua ran out to greet me. Binbin was getting big, over half a meter now. With all the good food lately, he was growing fast. I could finally tell his breed, a lion dog, what people call a tang hound. A big hunting breed. Once he's fully grown, I can take him on hunts. But not yet. Xiao Xiao helped me process the wolf hides. The fur was the most valuable part, worth 1 or 2 taels of silver in town. Unfortunately, the skins were damaged from sword cuts, gunshot holes, and bear bites. They'd sell, but not for top price. She asked if I was going back up the mountain. I told her no, not for a while. The new year was coming. Maybe I'd grab some small game on the outer slopes, but we had enough meat stored. After everything that happened, I realized the patrol guard position wasn't as simple as I'd thought. When the government needed me, I couldn't say no. But I couldn't give up the title either. It was the only thing keeping my family fed legally. Back in town, things were moving. Old man Tian wept when his granddaughter was returned alive. But when he learned his grandson was dead, horribly mutilated, something broke inside him. 3 generations of only sons. Gone, he mumbled. His own son had died in the war years ago, leaving behind Tian Zhuang and Tian Xian. Tian Zhuang was supposed to carry the family name forward. He looked at Tian Xian with hollow eyes. "Why didn't you die instead? If you had, your brother would still be alive." She said nothing, just stared at her brother's body. Old man Tian demanded a full investigation. A detective named Lu Shi took the case. He was supposed to find out exactly how Tian Zhuang died and bring back whoever or whatever killed him. Lu Shi started digging. The bandits turned out to be from a gang called the Lotus Society. Their leader Zhao Yutian was a vice chief. The gang still operated in town. Arresting them wouldn't be easy. But something else bothered Lu Shi more than the gang. His officers thought the case was straightforward. Bandits kidnapped the girl. Tian Zhuang rushed in to save her, got killed by bandits and wild animals. Case closed. Lu Shi shook his head. Tian Zhuang was a trained martial artist. Top 100 in the military examinations. Nobody in town could beat him one-on-one. But there were over a dozen bandits, plus wolves and a bear. Lu Shi tapped his finger on 3 words in the case file. "Then why is the patrol guard still alive?" The room went silent. We've got about 100 pounds of meat left and 100 pounds of grain, Xiao Xiao told me with a genuine smile. Between the oil, salt, and seasonings we'd bought in town, we had enough to get through the new year comfortably. For the first time since I arrived in this world, things felt stable. I was planning ahead: wild chicken from the mountain, fish from the stream near Taoyuan village. I wouldn't go through the dense forest anymore, though. Not after the bear. I'd take the long way around the mountain's outer edge. Safer. And I had the fire lance now, hidden where nobody would find it. If I could use it quietly on a night hunt, maybe I could bag some wild birds that my bow couldn't reach. That night, Binbin started barking like crazy. I grabbed my axe and threw the door open. 2 shadows were scrambling out of my yard. I didn't hesitate. I hurled the axe at the slower one. It hit him square in the back. He screamed and collapsed. I snatched up the cleaver and charged forward. Xiao Xiao lit the torch and I told her to scream for help. Her voice was sharp enough to wake the whole village. When the torchlight hit the 2 thieves' faces, my blood went cold. It was my father Chu Tian and my brother Chu Long, both on their knees. Chu Long had my axe in his back. Lucky for him, the thick winter clothes saved his life. They immediately started begging. We're family. We just took a little meat. Don't report us. I felt nothing. Today you steal. Tomorrow you kill. I'm reporting this to the authorities. Wang Wei stepped up. He's right. Report them. The whole village agreed. Just then, Vice Magistrate Liao Xiang arrived with a group of people. Perfect timing. Du Dehai told him we'd caught 2 thieves robbing the patrol guard's home. Liao didn't hesitate. Stealing from the patrol guard? The man who saved the Tian family daughter? 50 strikes of the rod. Take them away. The officers dragged Chu Tian and Chu Long off. No matter how loud they screamed, I didn't say a word. I knew Liao was making an example, showing the whole village that messing with me meant dealing with the government. Smart man. After the crowd cleared, things got more complicated. The group with Liao included men from the Tian family and a team of detectives. The Tian family servants bowed and handed me a bag of rice, about 30 pounds of fine grain, as thanks for saving their young lady. That was it. A wealthy landlord's family, saved from losing their daughter forever, and their gratitude amounted to a bow and a bag of rice. I stood there in the wind, speechless. Then Detective Liu, she stepped forward. He had sharp eyes and a serious face. How did Tian Zhuang die? I'd prepared for this. The bandits cut off his head. When the wolves came, he stood up to save his sister. The bandits attacked him first instead of fighting the wolves. I was hiding in the snow. I panicked, grabbed his sword, and ran back to report. I deliberately made my retelling a little scattered, a terrified villager recounting a traumatic event. Liu Shi watched me carefully, looking for lies. But my logic was airtight, even if my delivery was shaky. He told me not to leave the area. They'd be back with more questions. Then he headed up the mountain himself to investigate the scene. That worried me a little, but I'd been careful. Everything on that plateau told the same story: bandits, wolves, bear. Nothing pointed to me. Liao patted my shoulder before leaving. You're talented, kid. If you ever want to leave the village, come find me in town. I'll get you a real position. After all the officials left, I finally exhaled. Du Dehai asked what happened up there. I told him the truth, partially. The bandits were dead. The officer was dead. The bear killed them all. He sucked in a breath when I mentioned the bear wasn't hibernating. Then the widow Li came over. Someone's at the village entrance asking for you and Xiao Xiao. I grabbed the cleaver, expecting my mother Wei Xiaoxia coming for revenge after I'd sent her husband and favorite son to jail. But it wasn't her. It was Xiao Xiao's grandmother Wang Xiufan, hiding in the distance, and a middle-aged man I'd never seen before. That's my uncle, Xiao Xiao said quietly, her face tight. The uncle, Zhou Youqiang, dropped to his knees the moment he saw us. Please, nephew, your grandmother and father have no food at all. Just spare a little grain. I'm begging you. The situation at the village entrance resolved itself without a fight. Xiao Xiao's uncle Zhou Youqiang was smarter than her father. He just knelt there, acting pitiful, never saying anything harsh. He begged us for grain, claiming her grandmother and father had nothing to eat. I looked at Xiao Xiao and left the choice to her. These were her family, not mine. Whatever feelings she still had for them, it wasn't my place to decide. She looked at me, then shook her head firmly. No, the grain is ours. Why should we give them anything? Her uncle grabbed her leg. We're still your family. Xiao Xiao pulled free. You want grain? Bring money or something to trade. Nobody gets anything for free. She walked away without looking back. I followed. The widow Li warned them never to come begging in our village again. Outside the village, I caught a glimpse of the grandmother's face, pure venom in her eyes. The uncle told her to forget about pride. Does pride feed you? We'll come back later with a different approach. Over the next few days, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. I didn't go deep into the mountain. The snow was getting too thick. The mountain would soon be completely impassable. With the new year approaching, I focused on getting our supplies in order. Binbin and Hua were growing fast. Meow Meow couldn't outrun either of them anymore. She couldn't even wrestle Binbin now. Xiao Xiao kept counting our supplies over and over. Lamb, venison, crayfish, oil toads, like it was her favorite game. Watching her smile while she counted made me happy. One afternoon, I locked myself in the bedroom, climbed onto the bed frame, and pulled down the black bundle from the ceiling beam. The fire lance. I finally had time to study it properly. As a former soldier, I love firearms. It's in my bones. But I'd never seen anything this primitive. The barrel and handle weren't even one piece. Everything was hand-hammered by a blacksmith and welded together at high temperature. It was cruder than even early Ming Dynasty fire lances from my old world's history. Still, the materials were solid, heavy iron throughout. The small bore meant less gunpowder per shot, which meant less pressure, which meant almost zero chance of the barrel exploding. The trade-off was weak power, but for hunting birds at close range, it would work. The ammunition was almost comical, irregular iron pellets stuffed into paper cartridges. Deadly within 20 meters, useless beyond 50. But for what I needed, it was perfect. I wrapped it back up and grabbed my axe and basket. Going to check for wild chickens on the outer slopes, I told Xiao Xiao. She didn't even look up from counting coins. Be careful, Meow Meow didn't ask to come this time. After her last mountain trip, frozen, bruised, falling into snowdrifts, she'd learned her lesson. Smart girl. I headed up the mountain with the fire lance hidden in my pack. Wild chickens are everywhere on Yulong Mountain, but they're fast and skittish. The old method, rope traps with spoiled rice as bait, was painfully slow. But with the fire lance, I could actually hit them. I climbed a tall tree, wedged myself into a branch, and went perfectly still. I became part of the tree, part of the mountain. And I waited. Then I heard it, the flapping of wings, the clucking call. They were here. 2 colorful wild chickens landed on a branch about 30 meters away, clucking without a care in the world. Wild chickens have plenty of predators, but very few can actually catch them. They're too fast, too alert, and they fly to the treetops at the first sign of danger. But they've never met a man with a fire lance. I pulled it out slowly, loaded the powder, and held the fire striker ready. The key was timing. Once I lit the fuse, I had about 3 seconds before it fired. I watched the 2 birds until they held perfectly still. Deep breath. Lit the fuse. Lined up the shot. Bang. One bird dropped straight down from the tree like a stone. The other sat there confused for a moment, then flew off. I wished I could fire twice, but this thing only shoots once before reloading. Still, one wild chicken weighing nearly 10 pounds was a great catch. I stepped on its neck to end it quickly. No need for suffering. After that, I started climbing trees looking for nests. Wild chickens build their nests high up in pines, slippery, dangerous climbs in heavy snow. I checked over a dozen nests before I found what I was really after. Eggs. 10 eggs total. Most were fertilized. If I could hatch them, I'd have my own flock. Wild chickens sell for over 100 copper coins each in town, more expensive than regular meat because they're wild game. Raise them in my yard, let them breed, and eventually I'd have a steady supply. Maybe even a little chicken farm someday. I was packing up to head home when the wolf howls started again. I'd been hearing them on and off all day, but distant. Now they were getting closer. I climbed a small hill and looked ahead. For people were running through the snow, 1 woman, 3 men, sprinting for their lives. Behind them, 8 wolves followed at a steady pace, not attacking, just herding them like sheep. I recognized the wolves. They were the same pack from the second peak, still carrying wounds from the battle with the bandits and the bear. Their alpha was dead, but they were still hunting together. Then I looked at the runners and froze. The woman in front, wearing a pale yellow dress, that was Tian Xian, the Tian family's daughter, the one I'd just helped rescue days ago. What was she doing back on this mountain? 8 wolves. My first thought wasn't about saving anyone. It was about money. Wolf pelts are worth a fortune. If I could kill a few more, I wouldn't need to go hunting again before the new year. These wolves were weak. Small bodies, covered in wounds from the battle on the second peak. No alpha leading them. They weren't even really attacking the 4 people, just herding them, like sheepdogs. Against a full-grown man with a weapon, they didn't stand a chance. I couldn't use the fire lance, though. Too many witnesses. The axe would do. I hid and let the group of 4 run past me. When the wolves got close, I stood up and hurled my axe. It spun through the air and buried itself in a wolf's neck. Perfect. Neck wound means the pelt stays intact. Good price. I sprinted forward, yanked the axe out, and turned to face the rest of the pack. Without their alpha, they had no courage. They looked at each other, looked at their dead packmate, then slowly backed away. I stepped toward them. That was enough. They turned and ran. I wished I'd been alone. With the fire lance, I could have gotten 2 or 3 more. But 1 wolf was still good money. I tied the carcass with rope and started dragging it through the snow. I didn't pay any attention to the people I'd inadvertently saved. Then a voice called out, "Thank you for saving us." I looked up. It was Tion Xin, the girl I'd helped rescue from the bandits just days ago. What was she doing back on this mountain? She explained that she'd brought her wealthy friends up here to try hunting for fun. They thought it would be easy. Then the wolves showed up. I couldn't believe it. Her brother had just died on this mountain. Detectives were still investigating. And she was up here playing tourist with rich kids? Can you guide us on a hunt? I heard you're very skilled, she asked. No time, I said flatly. For people like me, hunting means risking your life to feed your family. For people like them, it's entertainment. They have no respect for the mountain. One of her friends, a flashy young man she called Yudazue, shoved me. Who do you think you are? You're just a patrol guard. I could have your position taken away with 1 word. Something dark rose inside me. Since killing Tian Zhuang, something had changed. A coldness. My hand tightened on the axe. I stared at this boy until the color drained from his face. Tion Xin stepped between us. Shut up. He just saved your life, and you didn't lift a finger against those wolves yourself. I turned and walked away without another word. I had no time for spoiled rich kids. I just wanted to get home and tell Xiao Xiao about the wolf. Behind me, I heard Yudazue grumbling. It's just 1 wolf. If I'd been ready, I could have done the same. Sure he could. After leaving Tion Xion's group, I kept searching for chicken nests along the mountain's outer edge. No luck this time. Over a dozen empty nests. But I already had 10 eggs and a wild chicken, so the day wasn't wasted. Those eggs were the real prize. I'd built a warm spot at the foot of our heated bed, perfect for hatching. A few chicks now could mean a whole flock later. I was heading home when an arrow whistled past my head. Instinct dropped me flat. The arrow buried itself in the ground right where my face had been. A big scarred man stepped out from the trees, grinning. Sorry, buddy. Almost hit you by accident. 4 more men appeared behind him, none of them looking friendly. I stood up and smiled. No harm done. What's in your basket? He asked. Just a chicken and some eggs. Want to see? I opened the basket. When he leaned in to look, I swung my axe into his neck. His head dropped right into my basket. Before the other 4 could react, I charged and killed a second one. The remaining 3 screamed and ran, crying as they went. I chased them a few steps, but let them go when they got too far. That arrow wasn't an accident. It was aimed straight at my skull. These men wanted to rob and kill me. I'd been going to the town market with valuable goods for weeks now. Someone must have been watching. I grabbed the dead man's bow and arrows. Useful. Then I heard someone gasp behind me. Tion Xin and her friends had been following me, hoping I'd lead them safely down the mountain. They'd seen everything. Good. Witnesses. You saw what happened? I asked. Tion Xin nodded, too scared to speak. Yudazue, the mouthy one, was dead silent for once. I need to report this. Let's go to town together. At the government office, I told Vice Magistrate Liao everything. I framed the attackers as bandits, possibly connected to the Lotus Society gang that kidnapped Tion Xin. Made things cleaner that way. Liao nodded along. Tion Xion's group could confirm my self-defense story. I dropped the scarred man's head with the coroner and left. Back at the village, Du Dehai was waiting for me at the entrance, looking worried as always. I told him what happened. Ambushed on the mountain, killed one attacker, reported it to the authorities. His face went pale. The man you killed, was his face covered in scars? You know him? He let out a long, heavy sigh. Come inside. We need to talk. He brought me to his house. His wife started cooking the wild chicken I'd brought. Du Chung set up the little table on the heated bed. The three of us sat down. Du Dahai looked me straight in the eyes, his expression grim. The man you killed wasn't a bandit. He was the village chief of Taoyuan Village's son. Taoyuan Village? I knew the place. The biggest of the three villages near Yulong Mountain. More people, more resources, and a grove of wild peach trees that they'd fought over and claimed from Shilyo Village. Their village chief was powerful enough that even Vice Magistrate Liao treated him with respect. Our little Yulong village got a much colder reception. Du Dahai asked me if I was certain they attacked first. I told him I had 4 witnesses and had already filed a report. He seemed relieved, but couldn't hide the worry in his eyes. We drank rice wine together. There's no distilled liquor in this dynasty. No one's figured out distillation yet. That got me thinking. If I ever got the chance to make proper spirits, that could be a real moneymaker. We drank late into the night with Du Chung. After I left, I didn't know it, but Du Dahai told his son to alert every man in the village first thing in the morning. He said it plainly, nobody bullies our people, especially not Chu Feng. We owe him a life. I walked home feeling relaxed, carrying leftover chicken soup. Binbin heard me coming and started barking, then ran circles around my legs. Huahua jumped onto my pants and tried climbing to my shoulder. I swatted her off before she knocked the soup out of my hands. Xiao Xiao was waiting at the door. Du Dahai's wife had come by earlier to explain I was eating there, otherwise Xiao Xiao would have been worried sick again. Chicken soup? I said, handing her the bowl. Wasn't this chicken for New Year? She looked a little disappointed. Don't worry. There's plenty more on the mountain. Meow Meow stumbled out of the bedroom, rubbing her eyes. Daddy, Mommy wouldn't go to sleep without you. We were both waiting. When I put the warm soup in front of her, her little nose twitched twice. Chicken soup. The other village kids had been bragging about how delicious it was. Honestly, without salt or seasoning, it wasn't much. But to Meow Meow, it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. Her eyes lit up with each sip. The meat inside made her even happier. We all drank soup together. Before bed, I placed the 10 eggs I'd found at the warm end of the heated bed. A little platform I'd built during renovations where hot air from the stove collects. Perfect for incubation. When will they hatch? Meow Meow asked. Soon enough. Then we'll have our own chickens. And then eggs. And the first egg goes to you. Yay. I patted her head. Life was getting better. Xiao Xiao counted our supplies with a smile. Meow Meow dreamed about eggs. Even I felt hopeful. In my past life, I was an orphan. Never knew what family felt like. This world was harder in every way. But I had a wife who gave me everything and a daughter who thought I was a hero. What more could I ask for? That peaceful feeling lasted until just before dawn. Get out here, you worthless patrol guard. Come out, or I'll burn your house down. A stranger's voice, screaming outside my door. I woke up to shouting outside my door before dawn. A mob of strangers with weapons, demanding I come out. Threatening to burn my house. Luckily, Vice Magistrate Liao was there keeping them from rushing in. The old man leading them was Guiyong, the village chief of Taoyuan Village. Father of the scarred man I killed on the mountain. He'd brought one of the survivors who pointed at me, trembling. That's him. He chopped the head right off. Guiyong played the grief-stricken father perfectly. My son never hurt anyone. He was beloved in Taoyuan Village. This murderer must face justice. I grabbed my axe and started toward them, but Xiao Xiao caught my arm. Don't go. Meow Meow grabbed my sleeve too. Binbin stood at the door barking at the crowd. Even Huahua was hiding in the shadows, fur bristled, ready to pounce. My whole family, even the animals, stood in front of me. Nobody backing down. Then torches lit up behind the Taoyuan crowd. Du Dahai's voice cut through the dark. Bringing this many people to my village without even saying hello? Where are my manners as host? Every man in Yulong village was behind him. Armed. Ready. Liao's face went white. He'd followed the Taoyuan group specifically to prevent this. 2 villages fighting meant his head on the chopping block. He ordered Du Dahai to stand down. But Du Dahai wasn't backing down this time. He smiled politely and said, These are my villagers, standing in their own village. I can't control what they do at home. Liao threatened him with rebellion charges. Du Dahai fired right back. Taoyuan village brought an armed mob to our doorstep. If anyone was rebelling, it was them. Then Du Dahai did something I'd never seen. He walked right up to Guiyong, pointed at his nose, and called him a shameless old man to his face. Your scarred son spent years terrorizing Taoyuan village, robbing, burning, killing, hiding behind his daddy, the village chief. Everyone knows it. He came onto Yulong Mountain, our territory, and tried to murder our patrol guard over a wild chicken. Chu Feng defended himself against multiple attackers. Take this anywhere you want. We're in the right. The whole village stood behind those words. Every single person. They remembered the days before I started hunting. 1 meal a day, grain taxes every 2 weeks, everyone slowly starving. I shared my meat. I gave them a way to make money. Not a single person in Yulong village had died of hunger since I arrived. They owed me, and in this era, people remember that. Wang Wei pushed to the front. You want to take Chu Feng? Over my dead body. He saved my life twice. Let the government investigate. Until then, he stays right here. Guiyong tried appealing to Liao again. Liao went quiet, glancing at me like he was calculating something. Then a rock flew into the Taoyuan crowd. Someone from their side threw one back. Wang Wei roared. They're attacking us in our own village. Brothers, charge. The fight erupted instantly. Wang Wei charged first, swinging his stick at the nearest Taoyuan man. Within seconds, both villages were brawling. These weren't the half-hearted scuffles I'd seen in my past life. These people swung hoes, sickles, and clubs at each other's heads without hesitation. Blood started flowing fast. Liao shouted for order. Nobody listened. His authority meant nothing when village pride was on the line. I grabbed my axe and walked out. Every person in my village was fighting for me. I couldn't stand on the sidelines. Then, from the distance, the sound of marching. Detective Liu Shi appeared with over 100 officers and soldiers. They'd come to hunt down the Lotus Society cultists who'd fled into Yulong Mountain. The sight of 100 armed government men froze both villages mid-swing. Liu Shi didn't care about our village feud. He made one announcement that changed everything. By law, nobody except the patrol guard is allowed on Yulong Mountain. Anyone who enters is considered a potential rebel. If the patrol guard kills them, that's their own bad luck. This matter is closed. Anyone who keeps pushing it answers to my sword. Then he marched his men straight up the mountain without looking back. After they were gone, Guiyong grabbed Liao's leg, begging him to intervene. That's when I stepped in. You still think your son went up there to hunt? I said calmly. I'm the official patrol guard. I carry an axe and a bow. Your son saw me, saw exactly what I was, and attacked me anyway. What kind of person attacks a government-appointed patrol guard? The detective just said entering the mountain is rebellion. Your son didn't just enter. He tried to kill the guard. If anything, he sounds like he might be connected to the Lotus Society. Guiyong screamed that I was lying. But I wasn't talking to him. I was talking to Liao. Vice Magistrate, what do you think? If Guiyong's son really was connected to the Lotus Society, and you've been helping his family this whole time, I let the sentence hang. Liao wasn't stupid. He and Guiyong were relatives. That's why he'd been supporting Taoyuan village. But association with the Lotus Society meant execution for the whole family tree. Liao couldn't afford that risk. He bowed politely to Guiyong. This matter is between your two villages now. I've done my part bringing you here. Sort it out yourselves. No more fighting. Then he turned and walked away without looking back. Just like that, Guiyong lost his only powerful ally. Guiyong stood there stunned as Liao walked away. When he finally looked around, every Yulong villager had surrounded his people, staring them down in cold silence. One wrong word, and they'd have beaten them senseless. He caved. For the first time in his life, the great village chief of Taoyuan backed down. This isn't over. I'll take this all the way to the capital if I have to. Du Dahai didn't flinch. Go ahead. Take it to heaven for all we care. After they left, Du Dahai let out a deep breath. He'd never been that aggressive with outsiders before, especially with government officials watching. But he couldn't stand by while his people were bullied. That's not what a village chief does. Wang Wei and Sun came up to me. Brother Feng, anything happens, we're your first call. Always. They'd proven it today. First ones into the fight, last ones to leave. I noticed the widow Li's son, Huzi, had taken a nasty gash on his arm during the brawl. Only 14, skinny and small, but he'd fought bravely. His mother had pushed him to impress me. She wanted him to learn hunting so he wouldn't spend his life as a starving farmer. When the kid asked if I'd take him hunting once his wound healed, I said yes without hesitating. Having company on the mountain wouldn't be bad. I invited Du Dahai, Wang Wei, and Sun Kin to stay for breakfast. Simple food, millet porridge and rough flour buns. But I had pickled vegetables from town, which made everyone's eyes light up. Salt is expensive, so anything preserved is a luxury. Over breakfast, the chief brought up something that had been on his mind. Chu Feng, I understand why you killed that man. He tried to kill you first. But after his first attack failed, did you really need to kill him? Couldn't you have just scared him off? Why not kill him? I asked. Because your wife and daughter will go to town someday. You can't watch them every minute. Making powerful enemies puts them at risk. That hit me hard. It reminded me of something from my past life. The principle that when you have a happy family waiting at home, you should always choose the safest way to handle conflict. But I shook my head. Village chief, I hear you. But that principle only works in places with real laws and real protection. We don't live in the capital. Out here, there's no guarantee that man would have left me alone after one failed attack. What if he came back for my chicken? What if he brought friends to beat me half to death? What if he decided to kill me because nobody was watching and he wanted what I had? In that moment, I couldn't afford to gamble. Wang Wei and Sun can stop chewing. They'd felt the same way, but never had the words for it. Du Dahai stroked his beard and didn't argue. He just listened. Du Dahai went quiet after my speech, thinking it over. Wang Wei and Sun can gave me a thumbs up. They felt the same way but could never put it into words. Then the widow Li burst in, tears streaming. Something's wrong with Huzi. We all jumped up. Her 14-year-old son had been fine after the fight, but suddenly collapsed. Unconscious, face white, body shaking. I ran to her house, dreading the worst. Please don't be tetanus. Those rusty farm tools the Taoyuan men swung were crawling with bacteria. In this era, tetanus means death. The village doctor, Zhang Xian, arrived around the same time. He took one look and said, "More blankets. Build up the fire." I stopped him. "No. Adding heat won't help." He glared at me. "You're a hunter, not a doctor. And what do you know?" I shot back. Du Dahai stepped between us. But Zhang Xian surprised me. Instead of fighting, he said, "Fine. Tell me what you think. I'll assist."